Rantcast. All right, welcome to the Rantcast. It is 7/8, and this is episode 78. Yes, it's July 8th, 2025. I'm your host, Kurgan, on twitch.tv/ TheRantCastPodcast. Welcome to the live show. If you're listening on YouTube or Spotify, it's not live, but thanks for supporting us anyway. I'm excited. We did a little more prep this time than last week. And let me just introduce my co-host here. But first, let me, of course, let you know to check out our different places. We've got twitch.tv/ heroquest fans. It's my stuff. And then also you can find my YouTube channel, XSC3 Home of HeroQuest fans. TheStrangeBus, twitch.tv/ TheStrangeBus. And you can also find TheStrangeBus on YouTube. He's got the Bus of Discord. I got HeroQuest fans Discord. StrangeBus, welcome to the Rantcast.
Oh,
Ah,
didn't see you there.
yeah, I see you now.
Welcome to the Rantcast podcast.
You're looking pretty sharp tonight.
Oh yeah, yeah. Just talked to a couple of investors and did my fancier duties today. So yeah,
Does this have
thought I'd keep
anything?
my fly clothes on.
I was gonna say, does this have anything to do with us reaching 50 subscribers on Twitch? Or that's another
Oh,
discussion
yeah,
for another day.
I mean, if you get to 100, I might do something else. I'm just kidding.
Joe Manganiello, watch out. You got competition. You've heard of Magic Mike.
Anyway,
Anyway,
I as I thought my camera issues were solved, I'm still getting buffering. Uh, I looked that up, and I'm going to kind of sidetrack a little bit. I'm sorry, but I looked that up, and it seems to be an issue with the Razer Keo Pro that I use, um, and it's becoming an even bigger problem on Linux. So unfortunately, I'm going to keep working on it. But if you have the drivers installed on Windows, it helps reduce the problem because you can adjust the settings to where it doesn't happen. But the default drivers that I'm using for Linux, I think, make it run at 60 FPS, and then it just buffers, which causes issues. So it's just a shitty webcam. Don't buy it.
dang.
Um, yeah. Eventually, I'll probably kick up when I can get another webcam and mic. But I hope everybody's doing well. Rob Champ, who else is in our chat so far? Not paying attention today.
I see Rob. Good old Rob. Who's also going to
Well,
be at
as we wait for
Gen
people,
Con with us. Yeah.
to funnel in, I hope you're having a good rest of your night and or day, and taking good care of yourselves and each other, because that's what's important,
It is.
especially in today's age. You're going to be hearing me grunting and groaning because I've got a cough today, so unfortunately. But we've got a great show for everybody. Like Kurgan mentioned, we did some prep, and yeah. So sit back, relax, grab your favorite tea, cider, pop, alcoholic beverage,
Yep.
and listen to the soothing sounds of the Rantcast podcast.
Yep. If you're The Rock and it's a cheat day and you've never had that junk food before, you can. Now's a good time.
I've never had In-N-Out Burger ever. This is my first time. On the third time, my first time.
Oh yeah. And Rob's painting his Imperial Salt miniatures. Cool. I've been doing some
Nice.
painting myself. I'm still prepping for Gen Con at the end of this month. I'm painting my Warhammer orcs. I got another one done, so many more to go. Of course, I've been doing it in stages. I also ordered a whole bunch of T-shirts that I'll be handing out to people. I'm trying to design some cards real quick and get those sent to the printers. All the stuff to do, but
So,
it's
correct
worth a
me
lot.
if I'm wrong. Like I said, part of the big show that we've got going on is we're going to be doing, we're going to be talking about some kind of a spread of topics if we've got time. Um, First, starting with something that we were talking about a little bit before, just a little bit. We're going to sprinkle on with some Star Wars, talk about an initiative that I've been kind of interested in, but didn't have some time to do some research before the podcast. So, the Stop Killing Games initiative, uh, talking about maybe the future of Xbox since our good friends Phil decided to blow his load on other companies and then decided to uh, let go of a good chunk of the company. Not him directly, of course, but the company itself. And then maybe if I've got a little bit of extra time before the break and um, maybe talk about some GPU and hardware news. I found a couple of articles that I found while I was gone that I remember wanting to save topics for. But if we don't, I know that you've got a pretty loaded um, itinerary as well. So we're kind of flipping the script a little bit today. So yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, but first things first, before we get into any of that, um, I always like to ask how you doing? How are things?
I'd say things are going pretty well for me. Um, I do have a funeral to attend this weekend. Funeral for a friend. It's been going. I mean, it's been in the works for a while. It's kind of a sad story, but other than that, though, got some family members that are sick. They're getting better, and I myself, like I said, I'm getting ready for the convention. I'm trying to focus on that as far as good things are ahead. I might be meeting a friend I haven't hung out with in a while there. So yeah, that's kind of what I've been doing. So I guess all
A lot of
things
highs and
considered,
lows going on.
yeah, as life can be. Yep.
Hey, I mean, I always like to say that like we experience a lot of good times and we experience a lot of bad times, and funerals are never fun. But I mean, I hope it goes as smooth as it possibly can. And like I said before, my condolences, man.
Thanks. Thanks. Yeah. Yep.
Uh,
But how about you?
I can't.
Oh,
I mean, my life is boring. Interesting but boring. I always find new and interesting ways um, to, or my kids always find new and interesting ways to make my life, I guess, adventurous. So that's been my experience. I've been on the road a lot lately. So for work, um,
yeah.
besides that, not too much. I've been playing Icarus, which is a kind of like an open world game in my spare time. We got the girl or the boys dedicated at church. Um, I had a tree, like a big branch. Not just like one of those small ones, like pretty much like an arm, like a thick arm fall onto my fence in the backyard. Um, and like just smoke that fence. We had to like fix it, we bend it back, and it's still a little messed up. But I drug probably had to be over 100 pounds worth of wood and chopped it up a little bit, but I had to move it into where I keep all my spare wood for my fire pit. And of course, it's walnut, so there's walnuts all over my yard that I've had to clean up. But just I guess a lot of small stuff, just a lot of yard maintenance, a lot of the usual stuff. And like I said before, probably the last rant cast we've had heat like none other.
Yeah.
So
Heat waves. Definitely.
I mean, keep cool wherever you're at,
Yep.
or stay warm. If it's really cold. I mean, either or.
Yeah. Could be
So
worse. Could be worse.
definitely could be worse. But I'm I guess I'm just glad to be home on uh, on Tuesday. I always feel like it's kind of like Monday right now because I was out all day yesterday. So, um,
Yeah.
but just taking some a mental time instead of working. But besides that, yeah, it's just been pretty much the same. Nothing crazy has been going on that I like remember. So, but yeah, I guess moving on to what we were talking about. I know that we were talking about what was it? Star Wars.
Well,
You were mentioning things about Stormtrooper,
yeah. So
like how the lore. We're gonna be talking a lot about lore.
we're
And
gonna be
I
talking
just
about a
realized
lot
this.
about lore. Yeah, for sure. Well,
Yeah,
it all started with this video I saw. So, and before I get into that, I'm not going to talk much about the actual video. Just more credit to Jordan Sorcery. Jordan Sorcery is this guy. I believe he's from the UK. He's got a YouTube channel called Jordan Sorcery. He scored a lot of really cool interviews with like Warhammer designers, and he got Stephen Baker on there for HeroQuest talking about his new game. That was something we covered a little bit on the last Rantcast. But anyway, he did kind of an editorial video, and it's like I don't know. Some people are much more like opinionated than others, but he was very like diplomatic, and it's like okay, he's got a lot of supporters. He's got to be careful, not step on any toes. But he gave this opinion piece about Warhammer lore. Basically, I saw it as him trying to shut down people who were basically saying, "Oh, the lore is being diluted, the lore is being ruined because it's being changed." And he doesn't outright say why, but the topic that I've seen the controversy was female space marines. Like they just kind of came out and it was like, okay, there's been female space marines all along, and if you don't like it, get out. So a lot of people were fighting about that online. But what it got me thinking about was as a Star Wars fan, and I'm a bit older than you are, so I don't know how well you remember this, but I remember when the Phantom Menace was coming out, and okay, so there were some changes there about the history of the Republic and all that, and what people expected based on things George Lucas had said in interviews and in the expanded universe, because the time before the Empire was kind of hazy. Well, when Attack of the Clones came out, and they basically set it up to say, okay, well, where do you think the stormtroopers came from? Well, Jango Fett, so Boba Fett's a clone. The stormtroopers are all clones from the clone troopers and all this, and people were pissed. People were freaking out. They were saying like, this doesn't make any sense. The stormtroopers were never clones. Like in the expanded universe, they never were. In the movies, there was never any indication that they were clones. And I know that you and I were talking about this because you know a lot of the background of Star Wars better than I do. Is that they've kind of like explained the transition from the clone troopers to the stormtroopers, because by the time you get to the First Order and the sequel trilogy, okay, they're just people that have been like indoctrinated from birth to be, part of this army where they all wear the same outfit. But the funny thing was, and the sad thing is, I thought of this kind of at the last minute, and it's like the source that I saw is like buried somewhere on some internet forum. But there was a source that somebody found, and nowadays I'd immediately be like, oh, this is probably AI, this is probably fake. But at the time, I had no reason to doubt it. But it was a source. I want to say it was from a magazine or like a game. I don't think it was from the RPG, but it was a reference, like a little info box talking about stormtroopers, and it said, "Oh, they can't be bribed. They're fanatically loyal to the emperor, and they're like each man is a clone of the other." And I was like, "What?" And this was like long before the prequels were thought of. So it was like, okay, maybe there was a one-off bit of lore saying that stormtroopers were clones, but then it was dropped and forgotten about until Attack of the Clones was made. And I guess it doesn't matter anymore, but um, something that Jordan Sorcery was talking about with lore is, people were saying, okay, the lore is being diluted, the lore is being destroyed because you told everybody that the Space Marines could only be guys for, 40 years. And then you said, oh, just kidding. They could always be women too. and if you don't like it, get out. You don't belong in this hobby. And people were like, what? But somebody dug up, they found an advertisement from 1988 that showed female Space Marines, like actual miniatures that you could buy. But then I dug a little deeper, and it's like, well, they weren't actually called Space Marines. They were called female warriors, and they wore armor that looked very similar. And of course, the only reason you could tell that it was a woman versus a man is they have the helmet off, and the chest armor looks different. But it's like, okay, so they created these male and female versions of the characters, but apparently they didn't sell very well because their primary audience were guys, and I guess they kind of looked kind of weird, so people didn't want them. So they just stopped making them, and then at one point they rewrote the lore to say, no, well they can't possibly be because this is the process that this is how you create a Space Marine, and they're only men. But then they created like an all-female like army. I can't say the name. It's like Adeptus Sororitas, the Sisters of Battle. So there's like an all-women like army, and there's an all-male army. But now apparently they're mixing it all together. But Jordan Sorcery's point was with Warhammer, it's kind of like every few years they come out with a new book and they change the lore completely. And the fact that it's a game, I mean, every time you put your stuff out on the table, it's a different adventure. The lore is kind of not that important. And of course, I'll get jumped on by Warhammer fans because I've only been in the hobby like a very, very short time and I don't know everything. But it's like the lore is just a justification for you to do what you do. Like, why would you build an army of guys in blue armor? Well, because this story tells why it is. Just like in Star Wars, why is there like a big bunch of guys in white armor? Well, that's because these are the Stormtroopers and they explain it. Really, though, Games Workshop just sells figurines, and it's like you come up with a reason for it. So if you
So,
want to have those characters, you can come up with a justification.
I'm not as familiar with like Warhammer or the Space Marines. I've had lots of people, well, not really lots, but I've had a couple people very like in the same trend, especially when I was streaming
Mm-hmm.
more often, even come up to me to try to get me into it. Um, but
Well,
it's been interesting to me. But going into it, uh, as far as lore is concerned, because I don't know exactly when they started doing the change to like having no like I guess no female Space Marines, right? Um, but I could consider that kind of like I guess a maybe a gray area because when did the Space Marine like things start?
well, again,
Like,
someone's gonna correct me. So this is just based on like a crash course. So the
and
first,
it didn't start with the lore saying that there was no female Space Marines.
well,
That was
no,
adapted over
originally,
time, right?
yeah, originally, so the first edition, and I have the book, but I haven't read it cover to cover yet. It was called Warhammer 40,000 Rogue Trader. So it was 1987. They came out with the first book, and I want to say, I think somebody said it was the third edition where it was explicitly stated they're only men. There are no women
Okay,
in there.
okay, and so
Yeah.
that's where I'm wanting to get at.
So probably like in
Um,
the early 90s. So since then.
so anyway, excuse me. Anyway, and there's probably an elongated explanation for it, which is fine because,
Mhm.
but getting to my point, I think there's a reason we should stick to a certain lore, um, for our escapist entertainment. As far as that goes, if a change needs to be made, um, to help bring in another audience, to help sell a product. Yeah, I mean, and you know me, I'm all up against big business, but on a regular business perspective, from somebody who has been in business for at least a smaller aspect, I don't. Um, I could see why they'd want to do it,
Yep.
but there are many ways you could do that and make it, I guess, believable. Um, I mean, then again, I'm not as adaptive to uh, that that lore or even that area. I'm not adapted to Warhammer at all. I own a game, and that's about it.
Yeah.
And a lot of people have been trying to get me into it, but
Well,
I just don't have the time for it right now.
let,
And that's the thing is, I'll play the game, but that's about as far as I'll go to it.
Space Marine 2 or Warhammer Total
No,
War.
yeah. I played the first one back when it came out a little bit, just the Space Marine game, and I liked it,
Kind of
but
fun.
um, I didn't really get the backstory. Like I said, like once again, I'm not somebody who knows the backstory to these, so maybe the fact that later on in the the lineage of the Space Marines, you know, maybe they could be adaptable to a different like gender or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
But then again, I don't, like I said, it's not something I know. But I can definitely tell you from a Star Wars perspective, from
Man.
somebody who's watched his or watched it's not just mine, but somebody who's watched their um, favorite escapist entertainment get fucking mutilated over and over and over again. And I'm not just talking about Disney. I'm talking about even from Lucas. Like, so coming from a kid who just watched the remasters from '95, where they didn't really put too much in them, or like watched the originals on VHS,
Yep.
where they were just that was it, you know. And then they came out with the re-releases, and then they added a little bit of like CGI and shit to them, or they added the Jabba the Hutt scene, and like you were like, oh, okay, that's kind of cool. And as a kid, I was like, oh, okay, that's really cool. And then they like fucked with them even more in '98, and then even more in like what 2000 or some shit. But when they came out on DVD, and that pissed people off. But to me, like I said, as a child, I was like, oh, cool. You know, there's more to this world than just that. Like they're adding more aliens, and they're populating stuff, and like so to me that was cool because it helped fill my imagination because I had as a kid, and this is something I'm going to attest to as a kid compared to an adult. I feel like the imagination runs a little bit more wild, and when something like that gets fueled a little bit more, I feel like you're a little bit more forgiving. However, with something like the Phantom Menace or Attack of the Clones or even Revenge of the Sith, where they're getting forgiven now because we grew up with them, which it's really still really weird to me because I didn't mind them. I liked them growing up, but I don't mind them as movies now. They're not movies I can consistently sit down and watch over and over and over. I liked them. I liked the actors, but to me, they're not what would have made Star Wars. It's, I guess it's not given it its memorable title. It gives it its assist, I guess.
Yeah.
So I wasn't in the same standing as like the people that were older than me who absolutely hated it. And probably, you know,
I
I
didn't
think
hate the prequels.
but but like I said before, it was, you know, walking out of the movie theater with a bad taste in your mouth.
Yeah, for sure.
Um,
Especially the first time.
but like like me, I walked out of the theater, you know, with multiple emotions because I was 7 years old, and I laughed, I cried, I had a good time. So, and then my mom was a Star Wars fan. She walked out, and she was like, "What the fuck was that?" Like that was out of Phantom Menace, and I was like, you know. But
you were crying. She was like, "Feelings are not for sharing."
yeah,
Oh, too
but
soon. Too soon.
um, so like I said, to get to my point, as far as lore is concerned,
Hmm.
um, I think that what helped build those movies, make them better, was the fact that there was lore. The expanding universe helped build on those movies.
Hmm.
With the original trilogy, the expanding universe helped build on those movies. And you really don't need the expanding universe for the original trilogy because the original trilogy just tells a simple story. And you can build off that yourself. With the prequels, it's a little harder because they're kind of all over the place. But you can still kind of pick up what you got. It's just the fact that if you wanted to fall in love with those movies, the EU, to at least to me, gave those movies more life. Um, and what gave the original trilogy more umph and allowed me to fall in love with Star Wars more was the fact that there was the adventures of Han, Luke, Leia, Chewie, um, the stuff with the New Jedi Order, the Dark Empire comics, the Star's End comic, the Dark Horse, anything Dark Horse, or um, a lot of the old school books from like the 90s. The Jason and Jaina uh, kids books were nice. Um, just stuff like that, but like mostly just like the swashbuckling adventures, just the regular like what are they doing next? Because it was all up here. They needed to make a movie for it, but Rob Champ says that he loved them, saw them all in the theater, was easily pleased. Episode 3 was his favorite, Anakin finally became Darth Vader. So, like I said, that's great. Um, I felt some pretty decent emotion back then. I was, what, 13? Um, but to go back to the lore, like I said, what I'm building up to, and I kind of rant on, I suppose, but
This is the
um,
Rantcast.
the the point I'm getting to is they establish a foothold. This stuff gets approved by Lucas. Lucas
Yep.
more than likely, whether it's a book, a video game, a movie, Shadow's the Empire, Rogue Squadron, um, Jedi Starfighter, Jedi Outcast, Jedi Academy, um, Star Wars Rebellion, um, just about every other game under the sun that even in the early to mid aughts, or even in the 90s, those games also told a story that set the EU together. And like I said, they also had books for some of those too.
Yep.
So those things told a story that set the timeline and helped build into either movies, TV, whatever later on. But they helped explain the universe so that when you read a book, like I have a book over here that explains the vehicles and whatnot, or if you read the chronology, a lot of that was included in the chronology. So if you wanted an expansive story or stuff on the timeline, that was included. You know, you didn't have to know everything about like what was Luke doing on Thursday, the before he went to go build the academy. Like, was he sitting eating a sandwich? No, you don't need that. But like, you could get some small details of what happened with the World Devastators after the destruction of the Death Star. What happened here? Just some small stuff that kept you entertained. Um, so in case you wanted more, you didn't have to sit and watch a movie all the time. And so with the Stormtroopers, because we were talking about the Stormtroopers, from as long as it's been, even before the prequels, from what I was told, they just put it in more detail, as far as I know. And this was back when they started introducing Coruscant more. It was introduced in Rebellion, I think, but when they started building more of it, less as like a palace city and more of like an actual city planet,
Oh, because I think
giving it more detail.
didn't it first appear
Um,
in Heir to the Empire?
yeah, but it was like they describe it, but like when they started giving it more like detailed art.
Before that, I think it
Like,
was
cause I
the Imperial City. They didn't have a name.
yeah, so like it was, and it had like skyscrapers, but they were like it looked very like dark, very like evil looking,
Hmm.
very medieval, not medieval, but like I don't know what you call it.
Gothic.
Yeah, kind of gothic looking, and uh, so they started modernizing it a little bit, giving it a little bit more changes. But the and it was like late '90s. It was right before, or I think when they first introduced the Phantom Menace. It was described that the stormtroopers, or maybe it was Attack of the Clones, when they actually first talked about them.
Yeah,
But
Attack
they
of the
were
Clones.
talked about as, and they just brought in what they had from the trilogy, which was they were talked about as, um, they were just recruits. A lot of them were like strong armed recruits that were brought in, and they were judged based off like how smart they were or whatever. Um, and then like it was built off that. Like so, as Attack of the Clones: Revenge of the Sith came out, um, the whole point because I always wanted to find out what happened to the clone troopers if they like just branched into the Empire or whatever, and it turns out some of them did, but there was like an uprising on Camino that, and this was before Order 66 became like the whole chip thing. It was like just a command. Like some people just didn't follow it. I think originally they were going to make um, like Commander Cody like go good again, and um, they were going to like flip the script on some of the bigger leaders in the clone army who just were just like nope, and especially a lot of them on the city of Camino because they didn't personally believe in that.
Did I hear?
So when the
Sorry to interrupt, but did I hear a rumor that originally Obi-Wan was going to kill Cody in Episode 3, but they changed it?
I I don't personally remember.
Uh,
Um,
I'll have to,
I just remember
yeah.
like because there was a guy who built on that for the Kenobi TV show that he was going to come back, and I know in a book they were talking about like him coming back as like a to like to make amends
Hmm.
because they were doing what they're supposed to. A lot of them were trained, and it was built in the original Battlefront 2 game, and that's how I learned about it because I played the Battlefront 2 game, and then
Yeah.
read there was like a book on it. So they were told eventually, like from training, that the Jedi were um, too powerful for like their own good, and in case of an uprising,
Sorry, just fixing
there
your
was.
volume here.
Sorry, am I too loud?
Well, I think it reset. Yeah, we had a problem with volume last time, but go ahead, go ahead.
So in case of like an uprising, which would be logical for anybody who didn't know about the Jedi. Um, in case of an uprising, they were to follow this order if it was initiated by the not the emperor but the chancellor, and the chancellor would give that order. So some of them did not follow that order because they got to know who the Jedi were. Some were manipulated and said the Jedi were slaughtering people or whatever, and the ones on Camino, by the time they found out, a lot of them were in training. A lot of them were still being like, brought in. And the Empire was the Empire at that time. They were coming in without wanting to um, kind of issue out the last of the line because the Django line was getting really thin, and they were starting to get stupid. So the Communists were trying to find like a way to like keep it going without it like turning out to be too bad. But that's how I think they explained that the stormtroopers couldn't aim very well. Was they had the end of them towards A New Hope. Some of them were still clone troopers, but they were like coming up towards the end of or they were getting old, and they were like diluted. They were super diluted. So they had the training, they had the skills, and they were loyal to the Empire, but all they knew was the Empire. They lived on whatever base they were working on or whatever ship they were doing, and they just talked work all the time. And then they just like when they had to fight, they just followed their orders, but like none of them had any really good skills because it was rushed through. So
Yeah.
they shot. They couldn't hit the broadside of a barn. They were just cannon fodder.
That always kind of bugged me. But I will say, when I first played Dark Forces 2 Jedi Knight, and they gave you the Stormtrooper rifle, and it was just like a machine gun, I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. So that's why it just sprays blaster bolts everywhere. So
It
maybe
does have an
it's a
override
good
for
idea.
automatic fire, that
Yeah,
E11,
yeah.
but
Well, and in Mysteries of the Sith, they gave you the sniper scope, so you could fire accurately with it too.
I can't remember them ever like in the lore ever like taking advantage of that because the I can't remember what they called it. There was another rifle that was used by the Empire that I
Oh,
used to know these
they had all
rifles off the
kinds of
top of my head.
weapons. Yeah.
But yeah, they used to have like a I think it was like the DT something or other, but it was a that was a like a rapid fire, like a kind of like a machine gun.
Yeah.
Um,
It seems like they invented a lore reason to explain why the stormtroopers don't just kill the main characters, like the plot armor, the character shields.
well, yeah, and like I said, it kind of made sense, but like the the ones on the Death Star, like if you had like the Stormtrooper commanders, like the ones with the pads, were
Mhm.
supposed to be the the recruits that like aced the Imperial Academy, like as told in the books. Like so, if they went to the Imperial Academy, like the recruits on Tatooine or anything like that, and they weren't pilots, they were usually turned into those. So they managed the lower echelon. Um,
Well, and we
and
see,
then anything above that was officer class. So if you didn't want to be in combat, but you
yeah.
managed like a manager or you managed or you did any sort of engineering, your officer class.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong on this, and maybe this has been like retconned or changed, but in the first Star Wars 77, um, right before the stormtroopers go to Tatooine to start looking for the droids, like you see an officer, like he's got the black uniform and the helmet, and he's talking to Vader, and it's like presumably that guy puts on stormtrooper armor, and for the rest of the movie he's got the helmet on, like so those are unmasked stormtroopers because I think there was some guys with him too.
You did what?
Yeah, so we're gonna have to like have a watch party and watch it again. But someone pointed this out to me one time. They said, "Okay, the stormtroopers on Tatooine. Remember the blast points too accurate for sand people? Like those guys are like really good actually, and they do get killed because the Falcon shoots at them and Han Solo shooting at them and stuff. But the rest
I
of the
just remember
stormtroopers we see are
the
different.
what was it the Luxor droids guys like the
Yeah.
okay.
Well,
Well,
and
that
and I know
I don't remember any of them having their helmet off.
Well, yeah, before while they're still on the Death Star, they're getting their orders. Like I guess you could say, well, maybe those guys just turned around and said, "Okay, stormtroopers, here's your mission," and just sent them off. But if you're watching the scene, you get the impression that the guy that's talking to Vader is going down there himself, and we never see him again. So it's like, oh, he must have put a helmet on, and he's with him.
Oh,
You know
like
what I
the
mean?
guy with like he's got the black top helmet and
Yeah,
like it kind of comes out a little bit. Those
yeah,
guys are
stormtrooper
those
officer.
guys are
Yeah.
I thought those were Imperial engineers. Like they
Well,
like come down a little bit and they curve outwards.
see, there's a lot of guys that have helmets like that. There's the guys with the full face helmets that are just like operating the super laser. You've got some other guys that are wearing like gray uniforms that have those top helmets.
Yeah, and
Um,
that's all based on their rank and stuff.
yeah, but
If I
there's also
remember right.
guys wearing black. Thanks, Rob. Yeah, volume's okay. Well,
Like a
I'll
like
watch
a
it.
black officer is a if I remember right, those are Imperial commanders. So those guys like
Yeah,
run like a deck or something like that, if I remember right.
yeah,
The brown is the officer.
yep. They've got the
The
smaller caps. Those guys.
um gray is the see now I gotta relook it up.
I'll have
because
to
it's
watch
been
the
a
movie
minute.
again because I'm trying to remember if he had like some rank insignia. I know that like they came up with the explanation of what all these things are later, but at the time it's like, oh, why isn't this guy just a stormtrooper officer? Why couldn't you just accept that that's what he is? That's what they look like.
I don't think they were generals. The black ones were generals, but they've
What
see. I
I
can't remember.
what I remember is he's just imagine. I mean, they look,
Maybe first class. I think the
yeah,
browns are officers, the grays are first class, and then um
black
the
black jumpsuit, black
black or
helmet, yeah, but
was
open
it
face.
a full helmet, like all encased?
No, it's similar to like the remember those rebels on the blockade runner
Okay, yeah, those are engineers.
engineers. Okay,
Yeah, it has like the little strap underneath their chin,
yeah.
and then it's got like the curved out
Well,
helmet.
you do see those guys in the detention
This.
block later on.
Hold on.
Oh, it's gonna show a
Yeah,
picture.
hold on. Let's see. I might be wrong, but I
Help
could have
us,
sworn those were.
help
Oh,
us, Star Wars man. Well, anyway, next time I'm
oh
watching
no.
Star Wars, I'm gonna screen grab it.
Either that or they were. See,
While you're looking that up, I'm gonna say a few words. So with Warhammer lore, I guess, you and I were talking about if you're going to change the lore, I mean, you put out a product, people fall in love with it, people get used to it, and then you decide to change it later. So you kind of have a responsibility to your customers at that point. If you're going to change the story to something else, like if you're going to make it better, like people like it even more, that's great. But if people like it less, I mean, you're going to have to convince them that there's a good reason for the change. And I think that's what Star Wars has always been trying to do is whenever there's a new thing. So George Lucas decides, hey, I want to make Anakin a little kid who pod races on a desert planet. So they put all their effort into trying to tell that story and trying to, make it make sense to people, so that you buy it, right? And with Warhammer, it's going to be a similar way. I think if you I just reading the first book, the Rogue Trader book, they say in there, okay, we've got these specific planets, we've got these specific alien races, we've got these specific technologies, armies, history. But guess what? It's a big galaxy. Like, if you want to just imagine there's some planet out there that has some new aliens that no one's ever seen before, new technology, go for it. Just make it up. And that would have been their perfect in for something like this because they've done it with other things in Warhammer. As far as I'm, quickly learning, is they'll say, "Oh yeah, that race they died out, thousands of years ago. They're extinct." But then they decide to bring them back, and they say, "Oh yeah, well they were just on some obscure planet that nobody knew about, or they were stuck in warp space, and then they came back, and so now you can put that in your army now." So they come up with a reason. So if they want to say the female space marines, they could come up with any story they wanted to explain why. Oh, well, they were always there, but here's this cool way that they came in, rather than saying, "Oh, you idiot, you didn't know they were always there," even though we told you they weren't. Like, uh, I mean, they have the female warriors. They could come up with a way to explain, why it was that. One of the
yeah.
articles was saying like, well, the Space Marine lore was not developed yet at that time, so it was just power armor. Anybody can put on a suit of power armor and start swinging a sword around, and that doesn't make them a Space Marine. But you want to say they're a Space Marine, you can for purposes of your game. I think with Star Wars, it's a little trickier. I was going to ask you this: when it comes to Star Wars, do you think it's easier, like if they come out with a comic or a cartoon or a video game or a novel that's official Star Wars, but it kind of sucks and you didn't like it? Do you think that's easier to deal with, or when they come out with a movie that's just called Star Wars that you dislike? Like, which one is
Now,
easier
hold
to
on.
deal with?
Repeat yourself. What was that?
Let's say, okay, so you've got this proliferation of Star Wars material, you know, And
Okay.
would you say it's easier to handle like a mediocre installment when it's a movie or when it's like a comic, novel, video game, some secondary kind of media?
Like, is it easier to handle?
Yeah, like as a fan, like the disappointment.
Um,
Like, do you put the
I
movies on
mean,
a higher level than the other stuff? You expect more out of them?
I
Because that's what I
I
do.
don't really know, to be honest. I've always enjoyed the extra stuff, like the EU. I haven't
Hmm.
really dug into any of the newer EU stuff, so um, I can't really tell you I've been disappointed about that. Movies I have been, but
Hmm.
yeah, that's kind of a good question.
Okay. Because
I guess with the movies, I kind of do set them because like they're the ones that you want to look into for, like it's the next installment. It's not like, the side adventure of, you know, whoever, but there have been like some books that like introduce like what would be main characters of like the family of the Solos or Skywalkers and stuff. So I don't know, to be honest with you.
okay, interesting. See, we could have a whole rant cast on that topic. But I guess for me, it was, I mean, I really liked the Jedi Knight series. Um, but I also felt like, okay, there's maybe some oddities in these stories that don't quite fit well with the movies, but I can kind of just ignore that because it's a game and I like the game. But some of the novels had kind of like, I don't know, they just weren't very good stories. They weren't told very well, or they just didn't appeal to me. But I could just kind of forget about them. And yes, in the grander scheme of things, you could say, okay, sure, yeah, there were those characters and they did some stuff, but it wasn't that important. Like I'm focused on some other story. Like it just kind of fades into the background. But when a movie comes out, it's like, oh no, no, this is what Luke Skywalker did next. And it's like if you screw that up, you're gonna piss me off because I'm like, no, I don't accept this. And it's funny because it's all fictional, right? So why does it matter? But I guess I bought into this idea that Star Wars is a very carefully planned universe, one man's vision and all this kind of thing. And so it's all supposed to fit together. So I kind of expect it to versus something that's been around for so long and passed through so many authors, like comics that you don't really demand that sort of thing. Like when I see Batman, yes, I've got a certain sense of who Batman is and what he's supposed to be. But if you've got like one interpretation of Batman where his character is like wildly different, I don't like immediately get angry and go, that's not Batman. It's like, oh, he's kind of a comedic Batman and he does this kind of stuff. Or no, no, he's a really gritty Batman. He does this other thing. It's like, okay, I just go, all right, this is just a different interpretation of the character. It's for a different audience. It's from a different era. But with Star Wars, it's more closer together. So I don't know about Warhammer because it's been around since, I mean, the 80s. Um, you could have had some of the same people like following the games and playing it all along, but they would just say, "Oh, well, that's a different era. That's a different edition. I prefer
Are
this versus
you talking about
that."
this guy, by the way? Sorry.
Oh, you found it?
Well, something similar to it because they've changed the look of a lot of the troopers originally, but the one with the open helmet,
Oh, I'm not
I,
seeing.
I sent it to you on Discord.
Yeah, thank you. All right, let me try to grab the picture.
That's like a revision, but um, I know what you're talking about. They have the black, they're in black mostly, but um, I can't seem to find it because I don't know. Because I think they're infantry. They're like
Yeah.
low
So
level infantry or
yeah, I think that. Oh yeah, I guess this looks like the was it the Mandalorian? He puts that helmet on the right. But the guy on the left is the closest, except just imagine that's all black and take away the goggles. That's what
yeah, because they had two classes in the original Star Wars, and one was like that, and they were like the pilots or drivers. So they would pilot the
yeah.
um like the walkers and stuff. And then you'd have something like this, and I can only find him in Lego form, which is bothering me,
A
but
lot of
this
these
one
guys,
here,
yeah, a lot of these guys never got official figures unless it
and
was Power of the Force
they were
2 where they had
workers.
everything. Well, I just remember
So
in the original Star Wars, okay, so you had these guys in all black with helmets. You also had the guy same looked the same except it covered
this
their entire
guy,
face, the gunners.
I know who you're talking about.
And
Yeah,
then you
this
had
guy.
guys that were just like the black suited guys except they were wearing gray with a
So
black
these
helmet.
guys, I sent you.
Oh yeah, these
I
guys
sent you two.
from yeah, by the time you get to Return of the Jedi. Yeah, that's probably the closest, I would say. I'd have to watch the movies again to see if there were any subtle differences, but that's basically it. Yeah, black uniform, no big colorful rank insignia,
So they were. I think they're just the Imperial workers at that point.
workers. Yeah,
Um,
but this guy was
because
taking. This
the
guy was
engineers had the closed helmets.
okay. Yeah, because you had guys just like this, except they had gray shirts, and for the action figure line, they were called uh, Imperial Commandos, and then the guys with the closed face helmets with all black were called Death Star Gunners or Imperial Gunners.
Oh,
Yeah, in Return of the Jedi, these were the guys talking about opening the force field to the Endor moon.
and those were commandos.
Yeah, well, because in the games you would fight officers, you'd fight stormtroopers, and you'd fight commandos, and they would be these guys. Remember Dark Forces, Jedi Knight.
I
But
remember fighting these guys.
but I mean, until Rogue One, I don't think you ever see like officers just running around with pistols like shooting at rebels. Like you don't see that. I mean, they'd be inside the base unless somebody like broke in. They'd be like, "Oh crap."
I mean, they have officers at the station. They press the
Yeah.
switches and stuff, or they'd be at the control room. Um, but yeah, I don't. I was just trying to remember because unless you're really getting into it, you don't usually see these guys, and I think that's because they're either infantry or they're like low level infantry or they were
Yeah.
just workers. But
It's
I
like
think that's all dependent. Like it's hey, you applied for the Empire, but you're not military. You were working aboard a starship to, I don't know, you regulated in an office position. So this is what you did. You made sure this thing's running smoothly, or you're like a ship, you're a deck officer pretty much, or something like that.
crewman or
Uh,
something.
yeah, crewman, imperial crewman, or something
Not
like
an
that.
not
But
an
like
officer.
that's exactly what it was. I didn't even bother because like that was they'd all have different names all the time. But I know the ones with the closed helmets, so I just put them in the same thing. I always thought they were engineers or crewmen, and same thing with like the closed helmet guys, because the one they were operating the Death Star laser. So I would always think that you'd have to have some huge amount of knowledge. Rob Champ says he's a gunner. There's a web engineer stormtrooper.
E-Web.
You want fresh Batman stories?
Well,
I missed
my
something here.
oh, I was talking about lore changing.
Excuse me.
So with comics, I think it's a different story because the target audience, I know like all kinds of people read comics, just like all kinds of people play games and read books and movies and everything. But comic books are were meant to be ephemera. Like kids read comics, teenagers read comics. Then at a certain point, you stop doing that. You read books or you watch TV, you do something else. They have an appeal for a couple of years. And so the writers of comics never worried about, oh man, we need to make sure that like for the next 20 years we don't change anything in the story, and we got to make sure that Batman's the right age. And it's like, no, every few years, you get new writers, you've got a new audience because they've aged out, and you can kind of reinvent the character and keep selling it.
Keep it modern.
Yeah, instead of having to make up a totally new thing. I mean, even though you create new characters all the time, a lot of them flop. So,
What's up, Joe Kozier? How you doing?
hey, Joe's here.
Um, so
Rantcast.
before
We got a
because
break coming up.
we yeah, we got a break here in about a minute. Just to finalize, I mean, because we really got into this.
Oh yeah.
The
But check out the video that Jordan Sorcery did. See what you think.
yeah, the whole point for me was like lore is supposed to be a good baseline. Like I said, with the clone troopers and the stormtroopers, I think it explained it really well. After like around the prequel time, how they like kind of capitalized on it. They said like this is what happened, uh, and to kind of help if you still wanted to empathize, there was a group there
Hmm.
that fought, and they some of them still helped with the rebellion until they eventually died because they had rapid aging, so they couldn't be far out into the original trilogy because they were gone, and the rest just phased out along with the Empire. They were just as useless as Disney made them now. So that confuses me because they added this chip shit, and then they also pretty much did the same thing. They added clone troopers that got them removed and fought against the Empire when they had an easier solution here. But uh,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't understand it. But yeah,
I think some of
I
the
guess we
fan
will.
some of the fan lore explanations can be better than official ones. And the funny thing is sometimes fan explanations can influence the creators of these IPs to like create the story because
I think
ultimately they're trying to appeal to an audience. They're trying to get you to buy into it. So if they try an idea like going crazy with Batman, sometimes, as Rob says, you create one interpretation of Batman, everybody hates it, you change it to something else that you think people are gonna like better. But maybe a
right,
generation later, somebody dusts that one off, and that's the right time. People want that Batman now. Okay, you know.
right.
So I think the fans who want the female Space Marines will find a way to like make it make sense for them, and they'll run with it. Or if it faces a lot of just kind of blank stares, they'll just have to come up with something else or give it up
It's a
because
it's a that's a hard subject because, like I said
yeah.
before, I think it would introduce a new audience who wants to be able
Well,
to enjoy it, who also wants that character to be relatable.
that's
But
the other
at the
part of
same
it.
time,
Yeah.
I don't know. Like,
Yeah. Be-
I haven't been into that saga enough to
yeah.
say whether or not that would
There's probably some
be.
marketing considerations because it's definitely true that regardless of, cultural considerations or,
Just
politics,
don't pull a Star Wars and try to just
yeah.
throw random genders into your clone troopers like they
If
did.
you, oh yeah, in the first order, but you could say, ah, but that's the first order. They had different stuff. Well,
No, they had the transgender clone.
oh yeah. Oh man, I remember the shoehorned thing. Yeah, so if you had a good story, maybe people would accept it versus yeah. Oh man, I forgot all about that. Uh
And it just didn't make sense, and
you've
that
got
that was my problem with it. It was
you've
just
you've got
random.
you've got young girls who might give your game a try if they see like there's female characters they can use. Not every girl, but some people would definitely who wouldn't try your game before will try it. And Jordan Sorcery made a good point, and a couple other people made the same point, is to say the Space Marines are just one of many, many, many different factions in Warhammer. But they tend to be the most popular faction. They're on all the covers, they're in all the starter sets. They're kind of like the poster boys, the front and center. And so if you want to get people's attention and you want to say, hey, guess what? You could make a girl character if you wanted to, and then put it on a Space Marine because you could say all along, underneath the helmet, who knows if it's a guy or a girl, it could be anything, right? It could be an alien, could be a robot. Um, but yeah, you want to release a model that has, feminine features, go for it. And then
At
you
the
could
end of the day,
paint it.
we all just want to enjoy entertainment. So
Yeah, if it's
I
fun
guess it's
for you, you can do it, and if not, you don't have to worry about it. But I think when even though and else and I know we got to go to break here, just like with George Lucas, like when he starts to lose me is when he gets antagonistic with his own audience and with his own fans. I mean, I get it. It's like you create a franchise, you own it. You have the legal right to change it to whatever you want. You could say whatever you want about your own creation. But when you kind of like belittle people that have a problem with it, when you get defensive, I don't think that it just makes people more like
I'll
less willing
save
to
this
hear you out.
for after the break, but I will say that I will say the people versus George Lucas. I think that the fault lies with both of us on that one.
Oh yeah, yeah,
But yes, he did have a little bit of a man-child problem.
yeah,
Nobody really spoke up to him, and I feel like it was his thing, but something I think he needed to understand was when you're working on a big project and you need people to help you on that big project, they don't need to take control, but it's good to have creative input because your movie got saved a bunch of times by other people.
yeah,
I mean, if you're just wanting to say something, that's fine. Don't expect it to make money. But if you want to do something good and have it be popular, like, then, have somebody help, you know.
yeah. And have some diplomacy. I mean, you
His
may
original concept for Star Wars was absolutely, it was interesting, but it was very
sweet, sweet.
outlandish.
I mean, you may feel like saying, "Hey, screw you, buddy. It's mine. I'll do what I want with it." But
Hey, no problem.
the better
Just
thing,
once again,
the better way to do it is to say, "Okay, you have this idea of how you think Star Wars should be. I can respect that, but for me, this is the way I want it to be." You know, and then people just vote with their wallet, right? Or
right.
you just allow there to be different, interpretations of it. And I think with Warhammer, the good part is even if you disagree with the owners of the IP, you disagree with the official lore, you can still make it up. But the question is like, are you going to feel like insulted and I have to take a stand against these guys and like boycott their product, all this kind of stuff. Because I think there is the give and take, and I think if they think the fans are all against them, eventually they will compromise. But if they think they can win them over, then they'll just keep on going uh, with the way they're going. Yeah, saved in the editing room. Yeah, and I think George Lucas has mellowed out quite a bit from that early time. But you might, and you probably have to ask a real Warhammer fan about this. This might be like the special editions of Warhammer that we're seeing. There's changes. Some people are okay with it. Some people are, ambivalent about it. Some people hate it. And let's see where it goes. Maybe. All right, break time.
Yep. We will take a quick, maybe
Right.
5-10 minutes, and then we will be back with more Rankcast after this break. So don't go away. Keep your ass in your fucking seat.
Rantcast. All right. Rantcast. All right, we're just getting back from our break here. Hope you all had a refreshing beverage. Splash some cold water on your face, slap yourself around a little bit. Well, maybe not the last one. All right, we'll get our screen back here.
Rankcast.
I need to get hotkeys again for all these screens because I can't find the screen that I want when I want it. Not like the old
Well,
days.
if all goes well, I might be able to host again next week if you'll let me.
Oh,
If you'll let me.
wow. I've just had so much power though. I'm like Kathleen Kennedy. I just want to like cancel everything. No. Yeah, that'd be great. I would love to
And
have you back.
while we were on break, I think I was talking to you what was it, a year or so ago while I was streaming that because I was doing emulation that I wanted to do that Lord of the Rings game, like
Sweet.
the Fellowship, like the one that was based off the book, not the movie.
Oh yeah.
And you and I were talking about it, and I was like, yeah, I should do that. So I'm trying to find it again so I can get it to work.
Nice. This was the game that freaked you out back in the day.
Yeah,
Yeah. That would be fun.
I
That would
should
be
try
a
to
great
beat it.
Spooptober. Well, even before.
Well, I don't even know if it'd be. It's not scary. It's just yeah, it freaked me out back in the day.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, before we get into our next topic, I did want to quickly show an article that I did reference a little bit. in our discussion earlier about the Space Marines. It's always going back to that. Listen, I have a lot to learn about Warhammer, so I can't give the full perspective of like a diehard fan. So I'm probably missing all kinds of nuances that other people would pick up on. But I did want to show this. It's just going to be a web page here. Just throw it on screen. Okay, so this is an article from Spiky Bits, which actually I referenced a lot as I'm taking a crash course in learning Warhammer in time for Gen Con. And they're talking about the controversy. And of course, they have, their point of view and everything. They reference some videos. That's from Necromunda. But these weird looking characters that you see here are examples. They're not actually female Space Marines, they are female warriors and punks from 1988. So this is the picture. So I guess this is as close as we've gotten in, I guess, Rogue Trader Warhammer 40,000 lore to female Space Marines. So they do show some characters that are wearing what looks to be power armor. They got the shoulder pads, they got the gun, they got the sword. But apparently they didn't sell very well. But this was a new wrinkle for me to learn that this existed because you could say, well, it didn't just come out of completely out of nowhere. It's kind of like they reached back into the recesses and pulled something out. But I don't know. I could see how some people could still find it jarring. Just like if you have like Batman that just casually kills criminals, you'd say, wait a minute, he's had a code versus killing for all these years. But if you go back
Hey,
far enough,
wait a minute.
you've got Batman that does kill, criminals, right? What were you gonna say?
I mean, no, I was making a joke.
Oh,
Hey, that doesn't make sense. But I mean, yeah, there's been times when he has, but like,
yeah, he has, but it's pretty rare. And but I mean, you could introduce a new Batman where it's just like, oh no, he's had it up to here. He just like offs people, like the
fucking
Punisher,
done.
like the Punisher. But I mean, like I could see the outrage. People would be like, wait a minute, that's not what Batman does. This is wrong. But then someone could go back and say, yeah, but if you go back to the 1930s,
Isn't that
Batman
what Batfleck
originally,
did though?
huh?
Isn't that what he did in Suicide Squad though, or some
Well,
shit like that?
he branded the criminals, and so they got like murdered in prison because they're like, "Oh, you talked to Batman," and so like people would kill them. So it's like he
Oh,
indirectly was killing them. It's just kind of weird, yeah. But I would just think if you're a vigilante and your goal is to kill criminals, like why would you like punch them and throw batarangs? Like why wouldn't you just be like, okay, I've just got an assault rifle. I've just got bombs. I mean, I guess Batman has those too if he wants to use them, but
right.
I don't know. It's like yeah, it's like they create the character a certain way. People get used to it. Then they change it to something else, but then they keep it that way for a really long time, a really long stretch of time. So people get used to it, and that just seems, that's the one that they fell in love with. And it's like, oh, then you totally change it again, and people are gonna freak out. So, yeah. I One thing I want to say about Warhammer, if you do decide to get into it as a hobby, it can be a very expensive one. Like if you try to play competitively, like what I've learned is I had a whole bunch of figures just laying around. And so I had like half of an army basically already. So I was like, oh, great. But the amount of money that I spent, it's like buying a whole new game. So if you started from scratch, I mean, that would be, it's pretty costly to like
You
do all that
preferred? I probably won't do the figures. I'll probably just like look at the lore and stuff.
games.
See
Yeah.
if I'm interested.
People are super into the lore. That's the thing. And it's because Warhammer, like it's a if you look at Warhammer Fantasy it's like HeroQuest, but it's kind of like a gritty, dark version of it. I mean, I don't know how if you could compare it to Game of Thrones, but there's a lot of like cloak and dagger, a lot of like intrigue, a lot of like dark, seamy underbelly of the world. Like the heroes aren't that great. Like they're kind of kind of dirty, kind of crooked, but they're still. I mean, there's still like really evil like creatures out there that got to be stopped. So in a way. You root for certain factions, and there's an RPG that has its own thing. But the most popular one right now is Warhammer 40,000, which started out as a parody, like a sci-fi parody of Warhammer Fantasy. But then it developed and developed and developed. But it's it has a lot of things you'll find familiar. There's stuff from like Starship Troopers in there, Star Trek, Star Wars, Dune. It's like basically the heroes of the Empire are like these genetically modified, like drug addicted, like fanatics, who worship this dead guy and go out and just slaughter everybody. But they wear cool armor and they have cool powers and stuff. And the monsters they fight are awesome. I mean, you got the orcs who are completely crazy and they grow from like fungus spores, and you've got robots that are right out of Terminator who are trying to kill everybody, and you've got aliens that are very similar to the xenomorphs. And of course, I'm oversimplifying it, as a casual fan, as a filthy casual, but
You filthy casual.
it's all an excuse to put a bunch of
Kidding.
figures on the board and roll a bunch of dice. But the great thing about the casual gaming scene is you can do whatever you want. You can use any miniatures. You can make up your own stats. You can make up your own stories. It doesn't matter. As long as the person you're playing with is cool with it, you just go with it. Similar to HeroQuest. But it's the people who get into it competitively, which I'm going into a tournament, so I've got to follow their rules. So my army can only use certain combinations of units, and they got to be like, certain size, and they got to be painted to a certain standard, and like all this stuff. And I felt like after talking with the tournament manager and looking at the rules, like they were pretty lenient. But I mean, not every tournament is going to be that way. So if you are very, very strict, you're going to be really pissed off because the army that you had, built and spent all these hundreds of hours putting together, okay, now it doesn't work anymore. Now it's not legal. Like you got to start all over. And
Well,
that
no offense to anybody who does that stuff, but I'm kind of glad I don't right now. It
yeah.
seems like it would be a very expensive hobby.
See,
Not that I don't have expensive hobbies, but still,
well, and I think
I don't know if I could take on another one.
it's worse than stuff like Magic the Gathering because I know with Magic, well,
Oh,
okay,
I don't know, man. They just did that
people,
Final Fantasy VII stuff.
well, with Magic, okay, correct me if I'm wrong. Don't people like you buy a starter deck, then you buy all these like blind bags and you rip them open to try to find like rare cards and mix them into your deck to make like the ultimate, and then you go to a game shop and you challenge people. Or I guess you go on
I
eBay and
mean,
try to find like the best cards that are rare and expensive and build like a really good deck. Because it's all about
yeah,
who's
but
got the biggest deck, Just slap it on the
yeah,
table.
my deck bigger than your deck. Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, you could just play the game casually for fun. You don't have to like go to an official tournament where you got an entry fee and all these strict rules. Like you could just have fun with your friends. But with Warhammer,
Yeah.
you're spending all this time like gluing and painting and collecting and doing all this stuff. And a lot of people don't even get past that stage. It's just it's a craft hobby rather than a game hobby. But then on the opposite side, you've got people who don't paint the miniatures. They just buy them already painted and, you know, just play and try to win. Or you got people that play the video games or the RPG or whatever. So,
Okay.
but I'll tell you about my experiences when I get back from the convention and whether I thought it was worth it, whether I thought it was investing. Because I have
It
this,
was it was really worth it.
it was worth it. Earn it, earn it. Yeah, it's like investing in
Hey, Bohemius even
brand
agrees
new.
with me. Magic is expensive. Well,
Oh, the rare
Magic has a lot
cards.
of gimmicks too. Like, I know that like figures and models they can be like really expensive, but usually you kind of can. I feel like people can budget a lot on those, and they do have tempting stuff. But like, especially like trading cards right now are very popular with both adults and children, depending on which ones you go for. And like right now they're trying to cross things over, especially Magic right now. Like so they did that Final Fantasy VII cameo. It's crazy. But it's not how much it is though. It stacks and people buy them in bulk now. You haven't heard about the crazy shit going on with like fucking Pokemon, right?
No, I haven't
I wouldn't
followed
even
in
be
a
worried
while.
about the money. I'd be worried about getting fucking killed and the like and
Pinkertons
like my
come to your house?
kids, my poor kids, man.
Oh.
Price event. Oh my god.
Well,
Yeah, and like I don't know, like that
well,
just seems crazy too.
for Warhammer, you've got people who just 3D print stuff, so you could make an army for pennies. Now that wouldn't be legal in a tournament, and they probably kick you out of the store. But if you're just playing with your friends, who cares? And I guess for Magic, you could just like print the stuff off yourself. I mean, it wouldn't be accepted in any tournament. Uh, some people would call you a nerd, but you'd be like, "Joke's on you! I spent, $5 on
Nerd.
this." If it,
Randy.
well, I guess it's kind of like comic books. It's like you could just collect digital comics and print them off yourself. But somebody who took the time and spent the money to like track down the
But
actual comics and collected them in the bags and
yeah, having that official comic
like
not only
this,
feels good,
yeah,
but it's the nostalgia too. I think it, like I said, it's.
mhm,
I think that's why
this is
Pokemon's kind of getting fucking destroyed right now
yeah,
too. Is just yeah,
yeah,
like man, children are kind of driving me nuts at the moment.
yeah. But
Like not
it's all good
like
though.
the really bad ones, like the just the ones that are buying them in like huge bulks and being assholes about them. Like that stuff's also for kids, man. Chill out.
Oh, yeah, you're talking about
Like
scalpers.
emptying fucking stores.
Yep.
No. Well, yeah, but like also the
They
people who
buy
have
up the
like
supplies for other people.
their entire room is like a Pokemon thing. But and like it was a problem. Like and they're like buying them in bulk. Like just buying out the store or like
Well, yeah,
trying to like
I
yeah. And
the
they're doing
scalpers.
that so they can get all the rare stuff.
Yeah, the scalpers are not just the people who overcharge for resale stuff
The
that's rare,
scalper's an asshole, but like,
but a
you know,
person
they're just
who
trying to make money,
the
but
person who
yeah.
creates who helps create the situation in the first place. Something comes out, they buy up way more, like they fill their entire shopping cart with the stuff. Yeah, they buy the entire
Like
shelf and then they put it
Fanatic,
online and flip it.
you get like a fanatic who's just buying up the store because they just want all the shit, all the rare shit. And like, I'm just letting you know, the people who are like in their my age or higher, and then you've got like my kids' age who are waiting just to buy it, like, I don't know, a
Yeah,
pack.
yeah.
And
You,
like,
you're
you're
not letting
taken away from that, like,
them
to
have it,
relive your youth.
right?
Like, it's
Well,
ridiculous.
I think most of those people are doing it to sell the stuff off. But I mean, even if you're just hoarding it for yourself, it's like, are you actually going to use it? Are you actually going to have fun with it? Like, if I was doing that, I'd be, well, when I buy HeroQuest stuff, yeah, I mean, there's a nostalgia kick, but I mean that's very short-lived. Like, I want to actually open it up and play it with people because
Yeah,
it's
but you don't
fun.
buy out like
Yeah,
I mean, it's a little different because, like,
buy 10
I feel like I
copies.
said, you get scalpers, right? But like, then you also do really get the fanatics because, like, they'll buy it for their stream and they'll open all the packs on stream. Like, it's something that I was reading up on.
Yeah,
The and like, it's the weird influencers and stuff that are buying that shit out. It's crazy.
yeah, yeah. Because unboxing videos are still a thing. I've done it. But see, I'm doing it to show you what you get. But yeah, some people do it to flex, as they say, to show off. Like, look how cool I am. I can open this like vintage thing that cost me like a ton of money, and I don't even care. I don't even want it. Like, I'm gonna throw it in the trash. But you get to watch me on a video because I'm awesome.
Or they just like to collect that stuff. But yeah,
Well, collecting is fun. Collecting can be fun. So I think for Warhammer, the
to
appeal
collect
is
like the rest of us, you
the
know,
creation.
like
The
go buy
creation.
out the store.
Like, I've learned so much about painting just like pounding through these figures, like, that I never would have had the patience for, but because I had a goal, it's like, okay, you have to get this ready in time. Like, I'm doing it, and in the meantime, I'm like reading off, the rules, which are very complicated. They're definitely not like entry level stuff. And then I'm learning about the lore, and I guess I just kind of roll my eyes because a lot of it contradicts itself, and it's all kind of mixed together, and there's like fan interpretations, and I just feel like, okay, well, I have my own feelings about the franchises I care about or used to care about, like Highlander and Star Wars and stuff like that,
Uh,
and it's like, I'm
I'm
just
not sorry. I
casual.
don't mean to. I just wanted to give a quick shout out to Jason and Bohemians because they hopped in at some point.
Hey, Bohemian.
It's good to see you guys. And it's been
Good
a
to meet
minute,
you.
Jason. I haven't said hi to you in a little while. So
Yeah.
go ahead. Sorry, Kurgan.
No, no, it's fine. I I just have to be careful that I'm not like dismissive of people. I guess I have a sense of how they might be feeling. Just like with D&D fans when they were mad about the OGL, it's like I'm not even invested in this, but I can sort of imagine how they might feel based on like how I feel about the franchises I like, and just trying to imagine, okay, how would I feel if all of a sudden, something happened, or if the company made some decision that interfered with my ability to just enjoy it. Because there is a community. There is a community for Warhammer. So, yes, there's the community organized with your friends, but there's also like these official stores that have these tournaments. And I don't know, it's like a person, I guess a lot of these people don't have like they don't have game night at their house where they invite their neighbors or their friends. Instead, they go to their local game shop, they take their game with them, they meet other people there and just like, form a friendship or, hang out for a while and just play a game. But I would think even then there'd be room for just, friendly exchanges. Like if the store manager is going to throw you out because you're not using a canonical army or something, it's like, okay, that guy's a jerk. I'm not coming back. I don't know. But it may be the same way with Magic. I mean, maybe it's like, okay, well, if you're gonna play at our store, you got to use the official, the latest stuff, the approved things.
Right. Right.
It's like we're gonna play Star Wars tonight, and you can be Rey or Kylo Ren. Those are your choices. I'll be like Rey.
Oh man.
Where did you dig up the old
Right.
fossil? Ben is a great man. Yeah, great at getting us into trouble.
Man.
Such a great movie. I'm gonna have to watch that again. You know what? I might just stay up and watch Star Wars again tonight. Maybe I just need to wash all that bad taste out of my mouth, out of my mind.
That's right.
Forget all about Leslie Headland and Kathleen Kennedy
Right.
and Ray.
Just forget about it for a minute and
Yep,
enjoy your Star Wars.
yep. Forget about the time I was a
It's the wars, man.
bomb bad general.
That's right.
Yep. Still have a Gaia's Cradle and
Bad bombing.
and Tolarian Academy. What is Jacer talking about? Is he talking about Magic?
I
Pokemon?
No offense, Chaser. Yeah, I don't know. And Magic Vintage uses almost all cards. Yeah, see, I don't play Magic. I played it in high school a couple times, but that was back when I feel it was like more simple. So, um, I'm sorry, Jason. This is like that's flying over my head, bro.
But see,
I know what Magic is,
but
but
once,
like I don't.
yeah, once you get invested in that universe, it matters to you. So I may laugh it off and go, Pikachu, what a dumb. It's like no, no, Pikachu was
Yeah, it
was
was.
was your character. You knew all about Pikachu,
I think I had
and
like was it a forest? Not a forest deck. It was like a. I don't even know. It was like a green deck or
I just
something like
remember
that.
mana.
I had
Tap,
like a black one.
I remember tapping the mana, which is something I do in card games. I'll tilt the card to the
Yeah,
side to show that you're using it. And it's like, so
that's right.
it's because my friends played it and I kind of sat and watched, but I didn't really get involved. But yeah, it's
It's forever
influenced me
ago.
too. Yep, 90s.
It was freshman year when I did that, and that was 2006.
So something they do at Gen Con every year, they have people like, I think they get glue and they get magic cards and they build these like card houses. So they'd ruin their cards. They make these card houses, and then you can
That's weird.
buy tickets to like throw. I'm not sure what they throw. They throw baseballs or something. They throw crap at it to like knock it down and destroy it, and it's for charity. But it's like, so it's kind of interesting, kind of cool, but also like it's this. The whole thing is very contrived. It's like, okay, you're gonna invest all this importance and pay all this money for cardboard. And after you've done all that, then you're going to create new cardboard and say the old cardboard, it's crap, throw it away, it's trash, it's worth nothing. You can't use it. But buy the new crap.
Interesting.
But the funny thing is, because it's a collector's item still, even if it's not like something you can walk into a tournament and play with, it's like the more you destroy, the more the value of the remaining cards goes up. So it's I guess it's for a good cause.
Okay.
It's quarters you throw at the structures. It's for charity. Oh, okay. So Joe was there, so he probably remembers better because I just walked by. I didn't really pay too close attention. You might have even been the one that told me about it at first. Okay. So you throw quarters. Yeah, it's for a charity. It's for a good cause.
It's for a good cause, you know.
Yeah. But I mean, my nephew plays Pokemon, and it's just one of those like starter boxes, and it's just he plays it at home for fun. And occasionally I'll find like what are they? They're like these little mystery box thing. It's a bag that you rip open. You don't know what cards are in it, but it's like a Halloween thing. It's like I forget what it's called, but it's just you rip it open and it's got three cards in it. And so I had some of those and I just gave to him, and he's like, "Oh, I already have these." So then he gave them away to his friends. It's like, oh, that's kind of cool, teach him to share. Usually it's only commons used, not rare cards. On Sunday
Huh.
morning, yeah. Well, yeah. Gen Con will be interesting. I like I said, I'm not into the Magic the Gathering stuff. I mean, even like the D&D stuff is kind of on the periphery of my interest. But I mean, I threw myself wholeheartedly into Warhammer, so we'll see how that goes. I told myself after I painted all these miniatures, I mean, I can still use them for other stuff. It's not like this is the one time they'll ever get used. We've got lots of orcs. Yeah. But there is something interesting about that challenge. I mean, you think about online video games. I mean, you play a lot of online games. I've done a lot of online games, and there's definitely a thrill about, just logging onto a server and just somebody challenges you and you fight it out, whether it's wrestling or shooting or driving or whatever it is. And hopefully you have a good game. I mean, you got lots of people that rage quit and cheat and stuff, but you have good games, you can make friends. And back in the day, before online games, it was, you go to the arcade and you wait in line for your chance to play Mortal Kombat or whatever and see how long you can survive. Or, yeah,
Man.
you go to the park and shoot some hoops, play a pickup game of basketball, and see what you can do. So the idea that you can just show up at one of these stores with your deck of magic cards that you've spent all this time organizing, or your Warhammer army that you've painted, I mean, you might run into people who are jerks about it and sore losers, or you might make a friend. But that thrill of
Maybe.
just the excitement of what could happen kind of makes it cool. All right, so how's our next topic? Are we ready? You'll make some
Speaking
friends.
of um speaking of like simpler times now become more complicated times. Um think well, how much time do we have? Let me check our where are we at? Okay. Good time for this. Um it it's really funny because we're talking about how card games used to be simpler. Um things have kind of moved forward to um, becoming a little bit more not manipulative, but kind of money grabbing. Card games or uh, models or uh, just board games in general kind of have become or have always been kind of a money making business. I feel like now they're uh, depending on what you look at, it's less more about innovation or creativity and more about just trying to get something out there to make more money or maybe taking something away. As the last couple of years, I know me and you, Kurgan, have, or even with some of our audience here, have had to take a look into. you know, fighting back or discussing something with what was it, not Games Workshop, but
Wizards of the Coast.
was it Wizard of the Coast? Yeah, and that was the OGL, or
Yep. D&D
as an
OGL.
example.
Yep.
Excuse me.
All these acronyms.
I'm gonna need another lozenge here. Um,
Yeah, man.
but to kind of bring into an example, same thing's kind of been happening with video games. I know Bohemius isn't a stranger to my crazy antics and rants on this podcast. But this kind of brings me to our next topic. Now, I've linked this page to Kurgan, and if you can, Kurgan, I'd like you to go ahead and maybe bring it up if you've got some space
Yeah.
on the screen here.
Yeah.
Um,
I was just showing the pictures
this
of
is
Card Holla, but I'll get to yours here next.
this is the petition for what's called Stop Killing Games. Now, this is a yeah. I would like somebody. I'm going to be able to. You want me to share it? Okay.
Yeah.
I was going to have you.
I mean,
I can definitely do that.
either way, you could post it in the Discord or post it in the Twitch.
I'm going to share it, but I would like
Oh, okay.
I would like people to actually take a look at some point in time if you're interested. I know some of our audience lives in the EU, and if you get a chance, just if you're interested to sign the petition, let me go ahead and full screen it
So
here.
this is for
And I will
Europeans only, excluding the UK.
It will tell you because when you go to sign it, it'll ask you where you're eligible.
Ah.
Let me go ahead and share my screen.
So our sponsor, ExpressVPN. No, I'm just kidding. Not really sponsored.
I can't remember the dude off the top of my head who is actually doing this. I will have to grab him so I can put his link and YouTube channel and the details for our podcast here in a little bit.
Nice.
Just let me know when you can show it off here.
Oh yeah. Yep. Stop Killing Games.
So, and it does describe the whole part of it.
Can we share the actual link though?
So yeah, I put it in the.
Oh,
Hold on.
why can't I see it?
I'll just put it in the
Yeah. Just whatever.
chat.
Do it. Do it now. What are you waiting for? I'm here.
Then I'll describe what.
There we go. Oh, I was thinking it was going to be this complicated URL.
No.
Stopkillinggames.com.
So this was to challenge the legality, and I'm just going to state what's saying here. But it's to challenge the legality of publishers destroying video games they have sold to customers. An increasing number of video games are sold effectively as goods with no stated expiration date, but designed to be completely unplayable as soon as support from the publisher ends. This practice is a form of planned obsolescence and is not only detrimental to customers, but makes preservation effectively impossible. Furthermore, the legality of this practice is largely untested in many countries. Over the past year, we have successfully escalated complaints on this problem to consumer agencies in France, Germany, and Australia, and have brought forth petitions for a new law on this problem to various countries. A list of the actions taken to date can be viewed here on this link. As of 2025, most consumer action on this matter has concluded, and we are awaiting decisions on it from several governments. However, there are a few remaining avenues left where people can participate. So,
Wow.
let me go ahead and kind of break it down a little bit more. There is a
Can you zoom in
description.
Just a little bit on
There
that?
is a description of what's going on here. What this is describing is it is mostly towards live service. Excuse me. It's mostly towards live service games. So, for example, The Crew. I think this is Ubisoft's a Ubisoft game. Ubisoft's The Crew. It came out in 2014. Has a small cult following, and for example, they cut support to that game. It was online only, even though it had a full single player campaign. You could play that game by yourself and beat it. Good storyline. After about 10-ish years, they decided to drop support for it online, right? Some games I've known that had online support and a single player storyline, usually when the online support goes away and you own a copy of the game, you could play it single player. Nowadays with live service titles, because with Ubisoft, they have a tendency to make their games online only. Like, for example, Assassin's Creed 2, even though Assassin's Creed 2 is mostly single player, you have to authenticate online before you can play it. If the server's not active, you can't play it. It says cannot connect to server. So if you buy it, it's still being sold on Steam today. If you buy it on Steam, I don't know if you can buy it on Ubisoft, but if you buy it on Steam, you almost, I don't know if they've even fixed it yet, but you still have to buy, or you still have to go to uh, a like shady website and get a crack for that game, even though you bought it, because the servers don't work, and you just spent like $10 on Assassin's Creed 2.
This topic pisses me off. I mean,
Um,
you're
and
I'd
it's
be
being
totally on
sold right
board.
now.
Yeah.
And so,
I
for
hate it.
example, the crew lost online support, therefore everybody can't play their $40 title.
Yep.
And by the way, this game is on store shelves today at GameStop, and I believe you can still buy it. You buy it, there's no warning saying it's not active, and therefore, if you own it,
You get half
you
a
can't
game
play it anymore. You're
or
fucked.
no game.
Um, and this is what I'm talking about, because I've also talked about how we're going to lose games too once, because they're digital. If you can't find a physical copy, sometimes they'll just be ripped off the shelves, or they'll be ripped out of your library because they're licenses.
Yeah.
This is what I mean, because people who just sit by and say it's whatever. There's media and entertainment that inspire people to make better media and entertainment, or to do great other things, and they grew up listening to this music, or they grew up watching these movies, and they put a camera in their hand and they do better. They do good things. Some people don't, but this is what I'm talking about. And this here is, if we just sit by and we let people just take shit, and we just give them money, like let businesses take back their product that they sell to us, they're only going to keep doing, or they're only going to keep making it worse, because we've now allowed them to go one step further. It doesn't stop here. So subscriptions, we'll talk to that topic, because I have a love-hate relationship with some of those.
Oh yeah.
I wouldn't mind those if we didn't have companies trying to say that we didn't have to own video games. I think that's bullshit. So, but that's not what this is trying to do right now. Right now, they're trying to say, what the petition works on is to require video games to be sold to remain in a working state when support ends. So, for example, like the crew, if they cancel the online support, there needs to be a small, like, it doesn't have to be a complicated patch, but a small patch that allows the game to run its single player mode so that you can still enjoy the title. Because Ubisoft should allow their devs and their workers to have their art still be projected years after it was released. We should be able to remember the art that gets sold. And if you buy something, it doesn't matter if it's $5 or more, you should still have something that's yours. You shouldn't be required to pay again if you don't want to. Because that's going to become the law if this keeps going on. They're going to shorten the life on stuff. Like, if that's what happens, if this keeps up. Next is require no connections to the publisher after support ends, and not to interfere with any business practices while the game is being supported. So if you're an EU citizen and you agree with this, It's very important because there was a guy who didn't understand what this was doing, who lambasted this support and slowed it down. And then a bunch of people who were really popular on like YouTube and other social media groups corrected him. But like the big thing is that if you are in any of these areas, it is important that you guys get a signature. If this is something you agree with. So I don't know if you saw because I think Kurgan's in a different area now. But if you go back to the EU petition section, it will tell you where the country of citizenship, like where you're allowed, like if you're in these areas, you're eligible to sign.
Okay.
But the big thing is like a lot of big companies right now are saying, and you can come back to me on this, like, I can stop sharing. But a lot of big companies are saying, well, it's getting too, it's not as cost effective to sell physical copies anymore. I'm going to call bullshit on that because, one, the Switch 2 is selling physical copies right now. Granted, they are cartridges. They're still cents on the dollar like discs. Just letting you know, probably 60% of those cartridges have nothing on them because you don't own the Switch according to the terms and conditions, and those cartridges will be useless once the Switch drops support because they all have to be authenticated online. And like I said, it doesn't matter if the Switch 2 lasts 10 years. People still play the NES. Some people still play the GameCube. Those games are memorable because they were good. The developers put time and effort into them to make a experience that was worth remembering. If we stop doing that, we're just making slop for people to move from one to the next. And like, I don't know about you, but I'm not going to touch that.
Yeah.
I don't want that, and that's why I don't play live service titles as much anymore. Like, because like they're not memorable, and the ones that are, people get disappointed because they can't play them anymore, and then they have to go looking through for people to try to revive them.
Yep.
Well, you can't rely on other people to try to revive your product. So, and then you're at the business's mercy to try and see if there's a single player support. The only live service game I've enjoyed from Ubisoft recently was The Division. As far as I know, I don't think it'll continue once the support drops. I would love if they just kept it going as an RPG, and like had it as a single player, because it has a dark zone area for multiplayer, but you play that game by yourself.
I wanna add something to what you're saying. I can anticipate a lot of the objections to this is, but I think it strikes me as desperation because if a company is afraid that if you play our old game, you won't want a new game because that old game satisfies you, like that to me is they're admitting they're not creative enough to like create something that would appeal to that kind of person. Like if you're playing Super
Once,
Mario Brothers, like okay, we can't make Super Mario Brothers 2 because you're happy playing Super Mario Brothers 1.
once again, though, I still call bullshit on that
Yeah.
because if you're enjoying the original, but there are diehard Nintendo fans out there that can play the old ones, and since they're so memorable and they're so good, there's some that still enjoy the new stuff
Well, they're still interested in
because
the IP.
they make memorable experiences. And that's one thing I can say Nintendo's good for right now, is even though they're being shisty as fuck right now, they still make enjoyable video games. They're behind on the curve as far as like games that might look good, but to me they have a formula that isn't broken, so they don't try to fix it. Now, granted, their tech I feel is a little out of date, and they've like jacked up the prices.
Yeah. So
But like I
maybe.
said, if their customer base is foolish enough to buy the Switch, buy that really low frame rate camera,
Wow.
and like once again, they're like way behind on that. But like the the whole point is if they're okay with that, then that's on them. And I feel like you shouldn't be okay with that because once again, brand loyalty is just as bad.
Well,
You are loyal to a company that's not loyal to you.
yeah. I can see there's definitely a bad side, and I usually focus on the bad side of brand loyalty. It's like, man, Nintendo, they are the freaking goat. Like, I'm gonna just buy whatever they sell, and I don't care how they screw me over, because
I
I
mean, like
was
I said, they
happy
make a
once
decent
playing.
product.
Whereas the good side of it, I would see is that like I'm playing Halo 1. Man, this game is a lot of fun. I love this game. And so because I'm thinking about Master Chief and I'm thinking not in that way, and I'm thinking of Halo, and I'm thinking about how much fun Halo is. If you say, "Hey, there's a new Halo," I'm listening. Like I'm interested. Now, if I find out that it really sucks and it's really crappy and it's worse than the game that I already have, yeah, I'm going to turn away. But even keeping letting those old games survive. Like I'm thinking of the WWE games. They turned off the servers, so you can't play online anymore. You can play offline, but like Halo on the 360, I mean on Xbox One, you can still play competitively, but on the 360 they took away the official servers. So like the matchmaking doesn't work, but actually you can still play with your friends. So like I could contact you on Xbox Live and be like, hey, let's play, and we could just play together.
Yeah,
We could invite our friends over and they could play online.
that's
So
correct.
it's like that, but see, they want to take that away too, so you don't even have that. But I think they're from the company standpoint, instead of being afraid that, oh man, if we don't shut off the old games, you're not going to buy the new games. What they really should be thinking is me playing those old games and enjoying them. Eventually I'm going to start thinking, yeah, but I'm curious. I wonder what a modern Halo game would look like with like, the latest graphics and the latest, storylines and stuff. Like I'd like to see that. So when you like, dangle it in front of me, I'm going to check it out. But yeah, if I realize that once I get into it, let's say, and I'm just using Halo as an example, they're going to pull away the servers after a couple years, or they're going to shut it off so I can't, or going to just say, you know what, it's just a service game. It's just temporary. And then I can't be like, hey, you know, I can't introduce it to my children. I can't dust it off years later and relive that nostalgia. Like I got to wait for the company to hopefully like re-release it again. It's back to that old problem. So I think that petition is 100% on point. I think people have a good point. I think these companies can still make a healthy profit and make all kinds of business and not be so grasping and greedy and stingy and afraid of their own product.
Like I said, I can understand that you think that they wouldn't buy the future product. Um, like I said, I think that's what Nintendo's trying to do. Is they're trying to avoid piracy, and they're also trying to keep people um, from just buying into their old products. Um, but also because they are utilizing that for their subscription service. Um, Camera man, on catch up.
Yeah, camera freezes.
It's
I was thinking of
my
I was thinking of Mario
it's
Maker. I was thinking how
that
you know people already have the old Super Mario Brothers games. You can play it on the cartridges, you can play it on the Virtual Console,
but
but they give you a new game that appeals to elements of the old games, and then you buy Mario Maker, right? And then you make your own levels. So it's like there's ways that they can appeal to old fans without just like sabotaging their own
but
stuff, saying, "Well, you can't have it. You can't have it anymore."
but they offer that on their subscription service. I really think they're just being really uptight and kind of stupid. My thing is for my I think my camera's getting tired, to be honest. And we hit that 2 hour mark and my camera just doesn't want to do it no more.
I was thinking of
Um
those DivX movies where you pay to rent it, but you can pay a little bit more, and it unlocks it, so you own it.
Ugh,
But yeah, that's a dark path.
why are we buffering?
What is this?
There we go.
Real player in the early 2000s, late 90s.
Yeah, like I said, I don't think it's. I think it's more for the fact that they want to keep people. They do want to keep people moving, and if they can kill a service, do a live service thing, then that's what they're gonna do. But
Yeah.
other than that, I you should still be able to own something. I don't even fully agree with the whole like digital license deal, but yeah.
Yeah.
But
Well,
that
yeah.
that movement is moving because they did reach their goal. By the way, to people that they reached their goal, now they're in overdrive. They're trying to move it up. So eventually, it might reach us. It might reach other countries. So keep that in mind.
Yeah, Mario Maker did go offline. That's a good point. So I never went online with it. So my brother's Wii U, like we played Mario Maker and we created just tons of stuff and we would like, sit there on the couch like I'll make this level and now you play it, try to beat it, and then you'll make one and I'll try to beat it. And it's like, but yeah, there was a whole aspect of the game where you would go online and you would, get other people's courses and try to play them, get the top rated ones. Like they took all that away. So yeah, it's still kind of the same problem. But I mean, it didn't used to be that way. I mean, we've talked before about Jedi Knight. Like you can fire it up. Yeah, you got to jump through a lot of hoops to get it running on a modern system, but you can play it offline. You can play it online. You can play it with people
The
right now.
Steam
There's
the
no
Steam version runs just fine. By the way,
nice. Well,
uh, you say
and
you have to jump through hoops, but that's what the disc
the
version.
Steam, yeah. It's because I'm using the disc version. Same with Outlaws and a dozen other games. Yeah,
Oh, that
but
must be horrible.
as long as
Just
you could find somebody to play with you, you could play. Like you didn't have to worry that there was an official server that doesn't exist anymore that you had to pay for. Because I get the argument from their standpoint is okay, it costs money to run all these Quake servers, but if they take all those Quake servers down, well, guess what? There's tons of fans that are running their own Quake servers, and those people will do it. You know, they'll pay out of pocket to do that, and then other people can join those, and the game survives. Like even if the company has no interest in supporting it anymore.
well, and
But
that's what we're saying though is the fact that with these games, most of them have a single player experience. So if it's online only, like if it's like an online only thing, and they make the new game, and let's say you've invested money or something into that, most of the time those terms and conditions you know what you're getting into.
at
I don't
least
think that applies to this.
no.
It's to like a product which you've bought, you spent money on because most live service multiplayer games don't cost money.
Okay.
But like for this, it's I think
Ads
it's
and
more applying to
microtransactions.
like single player experiences. They want to be live service for like let's say
Oh, that's
they've
terrible.
got they've got microtransactions in them, or they have an online service that updates all the time with it. Like I
Yep.
said, the crew was a big thing because they made another crew game, but they kept the crew going. It's just the first one was better, and everybody liked to play it, and then it just not everybody, but like they had a cool following for that game. It was good, and then it stopped, and so the single player wouldn't work because they were too lazy and they didn't want to make a patch for it. So they got sued, and so that was a big thing. Was there was
Yeah.
nothing on the box of the video game when you bought it that said single player experience will no longer be effect or no longer be active once the live service is canceled.
Right. Yeah, because when I go to, well, not anymore, but when I go to like the used video store and there's a game and it's in a busted case and it's $5 and it's 20 years old, yeah, I'm not going to expect that all the features are going to be there necessarily. Like I know I'm taking a risk there, but when it's a game that's new, that's still being sold, I'm going to assume I can play this, and I'm not going to expect that. Yeah, it's just going to be turned off. Now, what about Bohemius's take? What if there's a big flashing, bright glowy warning label right on the outside that says, "Hey, this is going to expire on this date.
Well, then I
feature.
think that's why
That's a
that's
game I
why they
just
have
wouldn't
that
buy.
petition. Is they're trying to fight that though.
Hmm.
So
Because without that, it's like you just find out later. Like I buy WWE, I take it out of the wrapping, I open it up, I'm reading through the manual, and then my eyes kind of go down to the page, and oh, on December 5th, 2017, I won't be able to use community creations anymore. I won't be able to play competitive matchmaking anymore. Oh, that sucks. I want my money back, but GameStop will only give me store credit because I opened it.
well, and like I said, I think that's and why they're fighting against you know,
False
the
advertising or
even with the disclosure is the
deceptive.
fact that they want to make sure that there is a way to play and keep what you own and bought for.
Yeah.
So
Because theoretically, if you crack the game so that you can keep playing it, they're going to come after you because you violated their terms
I
of service.
it it's not like they're spying on you, man. You could like I've known people who have cracked Assassin's Creed 2 because at the end of the day, you bought it.
Yeah. There's probably nothing
So
they can
getting a
do.
getting a crack getting a crack for the game on a pirate website,
Yeah.
I, I
On
like
a
it would cost
console,
them more. It would cost them more money to sue you
yeah.
than it would be like it's yeah, it would be a waste of money.
On a console, they could
So
they could ban you. They could ban you, but then you could just create a new account, and it's like, okay, well, you pay for a new account, I guess. If you don't do it again, what are they gonna
yeah,
do?
but the game isn't online anymore. So
Oh,
the point is that you shouldn't have to crack the game.
yeah, you
And
shouldn't.
I think the crack is like in the in is that big for AC2. The like I said, the point I'm getting to is for something like that because the servers are dead. I mean, for me, it didn't like. I think I had mine on Ubisoft, the Ubisoft launcher, so like it worked. But like for Steam, I don't know what the problem was. So I don't know if they fixed it or not. But um, there was a problem with a Splinter Cell title recently where it wouldn't work, and like I said, it's not like they had any interest to fix it. It's like there had to be people who were constantly on them about it. So, and when you pay money for something, or let's say you paid money for something, and you can't even play the game anymore, once again, your memorable experience no longer becomes memorable. Can't share it with anybody, nothing. It's like the suffering. I tried to play the suffering on Boo Fest last year, and it this is a different example, but it was removed because they just decided to take the license away, and I couldn't even buy it because it's
Yeah,
gone now.
I hate that.
It's even off GOG, so I'd have to probably pirate it some. So I didn't own it before anyway, but I should have bought it while it was still on Steam. So like I said, it's one of those things where they removed it,
Yeah.
and it was like a month short of buying it before it got removed. So now it's just gone.
Yep. When I heard, I'm trying to remember now what company it was, but whoever had the Marvel license for certain games, like they were going to take all these games offline. I like quickly bought the ones I wanted, but it was just like, yeah, wow. But these were like physical copies. So like Marvel Ultimate Alliance, like remember those?
Yeah,
Yeah. But it was just like, okay, but at least with a physical game, an older game, you could still track down a used copy or an unsold copy. But with the digital game, yeah, they can just take it away completely.
I haven't had anything being like taken away yet. Like I haven't had a game ripped from my Steam
You
library
you
yet.
have a
But
lot of Steam games, and so yeah, you're definitely going to be steamed if they come for your games.
well, Ubisoft Jacer is already hurting really bad. So I think they're being I don't know about being acquired, but I think they're uh, I think selling the Assassin's Creed franchise or doing something with Tencent on it.
Oh man,
So which doesn't look good at all.
vultures are coming for the bones.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, and I hate to say it because it sucks for people to lose their jobs and livelihood and everything. But it's like maybe they have to learn that lesson before they realize they'd done us wrong.
Who? What?
Companies like going bankrupt. Of
Oh yeah. I mean, yeah.
course, usually that's at a long string of bad decisions, not just like one bad day. Oh, they made one mistake.
Speaking speaking of Steam, I finally remembered to install it just now. Installing Warhammer Quest. See if my progress was saved.
Yeah.
Oh, glad I could remind you.
Oh
But
man.
anyway, so we're not just hanging on for too long. The Stop Killing Games movement is I would recommend if you can sign it, please do. Um, otherwise, keep an eye out for that.
Yep.
So,
I think it's a good cause. I think those people have the right idea. And you could say, well, maybe they won't get exactly what they want, but they're raising awareness about the issue, first of all, and it will put those companies on notice. And maybe change will come, even if it's a compromise. Maybe they'll come a little closer to the fans,
well, even
customers.
something that small is going to be put on their radar. So,
Yep. They're going to realize,
um,
hey, we can't just do whatever we want and get away with it, and everybody just has to suck it up.
right.
Because you and me, we can just decide, hey, I don't want to use this product anymore. It's going in the trash. It's gone. But I like to be able to have that choice rather than the company decides, yeah, I don't think you should get to enjoy that anymore. You know, we'll just take it away.
That's right.
We got your money and, screw off.
Buy our next product.
Doesn't make me want to feel, I mean, I don't feel loyal to the company at that point. It's just like, okay, well, yeah,
Now, do we have any other topics before I jump into my last topic?
I want to know what your last topic is. I'm all for it.
Well, it's same game top. It's the same wheelhouse kind of.
Okay.
So we're looking at because I think we talked about Xbox last Rantcast, but I'm kind of going into it a little bit more um, with the changes that Xbox has made, and I think we talked about a little bit about this, and you were talking about being I don't know having a loyalty to Xbox due to Halo. Um,
Yeah.
Another big reason I've switched over to Linux. I put Windows back on my laptop, but that's just for certain online games that have that anti-cheat crap. Um, but so Windows 10 is losing support officially this year. Uh, Windows 11 is only getting more bloated and gross. There's a lot of weird stuff that's happening with that. How it takes snapshots of your desktop every once in a while for analytic purposes. There's extensive bloat that they keep using, kind of like with phones nowadays. It just has a bunch of random shit, some that you can't get off. I now
Yeah.
have to use there's a program that Chris Titus released on GitHub. You just look up Windows 11 Chris Titus on Google or whatever. It's a program that you could type in through Python, or you can use your terminal over the PowerShell, and it will open it up, and it allows you to remove and auto install certain programs automatically, and then allows you to debloat Windows 11 and
Ah,
get rid of a lot of the base apps and stuff on there. That even the ones you can't remove
I could go for that.
allows the OS to run a little bit better. So I don't know what happened to my face. I just disappeared, and my
So
camera's still
take
running.
his
Oh, there you go.
face off.
Um, but yeah, you can use this, and
It's because when I switch windows, it does that. Sorry.
um,
There you go.
but I would recommend just going to Linux at this point. Uh, Linux still owns or has a small share of the market, but Linux Mint is fairly easy to learn, get a hold of. It's like their consumer base. I think it still runs off back end of Ubuntu or whatever. But um, I'm still learning parts of it, but my whole system's up and running. And if I ever start streaming again, which I was thinking about doing it tonight,
Ah,
um, I made like a StrangeBus theme for my desktop.
nice.
So with my logo and everything like that, the OS is completely customizable. It's all free. My system runs probably 10 times better, like it's in faster and more efficient.
There you go.
And with games have I think never run better. Through, at least through Steam anyway, on Linux through Proton. So I would recommend it. But that's not my main point. Uh, a lot of people are talking about whether or not Xbox is dead as a gaming company, including one of the founding members. According to this article by, excuse me, looks like we've got an article by PC. Is it PC Gamer? PC Mag. On June 30th. Go ahead and send this over.
All right.
So, Laura Fryer, a former executive producer at Microsoft Game Studios, um, pretty much said, and this is a quote, looks like they're abandoning pretty much everything that made the Xbox brand great in the first place. So dismissing it as a marketing stunt that covered up a flawed strategy. Continuing on the article here, quoting, I am not pleased with where things are today. I don't love watching all the value that I helped create slowly get eroded away. Personally, I think Xbox hardware is dead.
Wow.
She published a 12-minute video over the weekend, uh, kind of after Microsoft made their response pivoting away from the traditional Xbox console and played up their Game Pass initiative. So, kind of like their Netflix. One of you guys mentioned Game Pass, but we were talking about subscription-based services, but saying that everything's an Xbox nowadays. Play anywhere. So, Fryer argues that, and I quote, it's style with no substance. Unfortunately, I don't think marketing is going to be enough. And I think with them releasing their handheld, I think they merged it because I have to look at this now because the ROG Ally has now become the ROG Xbox Ally, which is a stupid name. God, man, they really need to work on those names. It's like they're trying to shoot themselves in the foot.
Hey, you can be
Um,
my ROG Xbox ally anytime.
Fryer focused on Microsoft's recent announcement to sell an Xbox branded version of the Asus ROG Ally X handheld, which is really weird because I usually love Asus products. But yeah, this one's like completely sponsored by Windows, and I think Gamers Nexus took one of these handhelds, the original ROG Ally, by the way, and removed Windows from it and put Linux on it, and it was just way better. Battery life was better, everything. But she continues saying, I don't see any reason why anyone would buy this piece of hardware. Excuse me. Because the Xbox Ally runs Microsoft Windows 11, which is not exactly a major selling point,
Mm,
since all kinds of PCs and other rival handhelds run the same operating system. Fryer concedes she has a bias, saying she hates Windows and favors Linux, which is weird because she was a founding member for Xbox.
dang.
But she adds another major problem, saying ROG Xbox Ally is the overarching message that Xbox games can be played on all kinds of devices. In addition, Microsoft has been phasing out at least some game exclusives for the Xbox platform. So why would I buy an ROG Ally? She asks. She continues, I'm sad because from my perspective, it looks like Xbox has no desire or literally can't ship hardware anymore. So this partnership is about a slow exit from the hardware business completely. You
Dang.
know you have a problem. You know you absolutely have a problem when, and I'm done with this with the article here. We can go back, but you know you have a problem when one of your founders, somebody who's had great experience in the business, somebody you'd probably take advice from, somebody who has probably a great deal of knowledge on your company, is reading your ass like an open book. Um, because that's what this looks like, and it's not even hiding it. I understand that like even PlayStation was moving away from gaming exclusives. We were kind of trying to get rid of those, and that was a great day at one point in time. Like you could things were moving to PC. It felt nice, but there was at least some reason to own a console if you wanted to get a console.
Yeah.
Um, and I feel like the day they did that, they really fucked themselves because there's almost no reason to own a console, or now they have to be cheap about the way they build them, or they're trying to get back into just doing subscriptions for video games, which would be fine if you could do that and then put a percentage into still making games ownable or buying them digitally. I hate to refer to Apple as a company for this, but Apple has always given you the option to buy your music or subscribe to Apple Music.
Okay.
I own music from them from forever ago. If there's an album I really want, I'll buy it. Now, once again, you're still under the same licensing restrictions nowadays. Before you weren't, at least not that I knew of. But I subscribed to Apple Music now because you get that all that stuff for a lower price. I'm part of a there's like a deal they have going on anyway,
Hmm.
and I could share that with my wife. But the point is that business practice gives you an incentive to subscribe, meaning that like it's $5 a month to get like an iCloud upgrade, the music, and like Apple TV Plus and a little bit of Apple Arcade. You get like all that. And it came with like buying my phone and stuff. So you got that incentive. But if you still want to buy like a music video or whatever, you still can. It's not like, whatever. These companies here, I feel like they're trying to phase out one product so they can have this product. And it's the difference between a business that's trying to offer opportunities while still trying to make money because they charge more for their products. And you could see the quality, you could see the effort, you could see the stuff in their products. And Apple has gone downhill, don't get me wrong. But there's a difference between that and then something like this with a lot of game companies where I feel like they're just a bunch of like, I don't know, a lot of alpha dudes who ended up getting a company, had some business experience, and then are now trying to cut as many costs as they can so they can afford their 20 vehicles or their expensive lifestyles. And they don't give a fuck about the people below them or what else is going on. To me, Phil Spencer is the hugest fucking conundrum in the world because I think he had the hand in buying all these other companies. And Tango Gameworks got shut down after making a great game, Hi-Fi Rush, which, if I remember right, let me. Hi-Fi Rush sales. How many copies did Hi-Fi Rush sell? It sold. It's published by Bethesda, made by Tango Gameworks. It sold almost 1 million copies on
Yeah.
Steam. So it wasn't like a blockbuster, but reached 2 million players on March of 2023. Mix of both digital and downloaded Game Pass subscriptions. So it was a pretty good hit. They even celebrated. Um, but I don't know what its budget was. Had a 20 million revenue. 6 million's first month of release. So I don't know what the budget is. But my thing is it probably made its money back. And they still got the axe.
Wow.
Almost immediately. There were companies that were bought, and I think Microsoft got they recently, I think, laid off 9,000 people in total recently, 4% of their workforce. And a lot of that includes a lot of the studios they purchased. So it
Dang.
didn't matter if you made a game or not. And that's why I'm thinking like it brings me to uh, did we overspend trying to become a monopoly? Mr. Spencer, did you get a little spend happy? Like trying to buy the entire games industry? Because that's exactly what I thought. And they recently just bought Bethesda. So they bought a publishing company, a big one. So, um, yeah, I don't understand what they were doing here because it's a very confusing like business move, especially if you're axing everybody now. Kind of like an EA tactic, buy the company and then just eat them up. So you're not even saving them, not allowing them to flourish, not buying them because they're successful and they can make you money. You're just buying them to eliminate them at that point.
Yeah.
So you're wasting money to eliminate the competition, and
Scorched earth.
that's what it looks like. And now, because it looks like you're trying to eliminate your console, it looks like you're just saving all the money that you're getting back from your Game Pass sales to cut costs, so you can support your top brass lifestyle. And that's what I'm seeing from this. So because that marketing commercial, that commercial about everything being an Xbox was very low effort.
Yeah. They got a lot of crap for that commercial, I remember.
Yeah, it was stupid.
Yep.
If you try hard enough, my dick's an Xbox. So, but yeah, I don't know what they're doing besides being complete and utter morons. So, excuse me. But besides that, I that's what I've got. I really hope the uh, the gaming industry rights itself a little bit.
Yeah.
A lot of games were canceled because of this layoff. There are games that were announced recently. I know Perfect Dark was announced in 2018. That game is on infinite hiatus, which
Oh,
is means it's pretty much done.
yeah.
Um, because I believe the initiative is what the development studio is called. I don't think they're part. I think they got the X, or they got a huge amount of layoffs, so they can't do the game. They can't make the game anymore.
Speaking of layoffs, Hasbro, I wonder if we lost anybody from Avalon Hill with those recent layoffs.
Oh yeah, there was another round of layoffs, huh?
Yeah. I mean, it was a small percentage, but I mean, Hasbro's been pretty lean since that first big bunch of layoffs. So I don't know.
You want to check?
People
Can you
are,
check and see?
yeah, we could try to find out. But yeah, people are wondering when we go to Gen Con, are we going to see some people missing? That's going to suck. 3% of its workforce, 150 employees.
And times must be tough, huh?
Yeah.
Man, that fucking Aston Martin in your driveway must cost a lot of money.
Yep. Can't keep up with the payments
Big,
now.
big fucking house, multiple houses. I know your kids will complain if they can't have the beach home.
Okay. I think I actually cited this article already. Tech Raptor. This is the one that was saying, but I'm not sure if there's any new information.
And then they give you these because they did the same thing. They give you these fucking stupid corporate messages about long-term goals and possible growth. You're not growing anything if you're cutting off limbs.
Yep.
Like, don't get me wrong. I understand that sometimes layoffs have to happen, but they've been happening from game and entertainment companies almost every year. It's almost going to be like you shouldn't work for them. Like, I hope people understand this. Like, for almost a decade, being a game studio is almost a nightmare. Like, I have almost not heard of a game studio that's made it farther than half a decade now without getting fucking dissolved or Thanos snapped
Yeah.
for no reason. No reason. Not even for the fact that their game didn't make it anymore. And that's bad enough. Like not being able to get a second chance.
Yeah.
Because I always thought that was bad. But that was just my opinion. Now it's just like you're just getting absorbed. So when you think that like, you know, you're getting absorbed by a bigger company, you might have a chance to do something great still.
Yeah.
But nope, we're laying you off. Laying off 75% of your studio. What the fuck?
Yep. Well, I hate to say
Sorry,
it,
gotta go
but
find another job.
I hate to say it,
Like,
but I mean, the Avalon Hill we have now is the one we have now. But back in 1998, supposedly that's what happened. They were their own company. They got bought out, and the entire staff was laid off. So there's a
yeah, but like
case of the company just wanted the brand, right?
it could be
The
it could
library.
be like there won't be an Avalon Hill if they keep doing that.
Yeah. Well, that's certainly possible. I don't know what's going to
And if
happen,
you're,
but yeah. Why would
Joe
we
says,
think they would be
are they
immune?
pretty much cutting staff they hired during the boom and Corona and going back to previous employment levels? If they are, that seems a little bit understandable. I mean, that's sad because, like I said, uh, layoffs happen. But once again, this has like been a thing that's been happening on a yearly basis.
Hmm.
Most of the time when you have a layoff, especially a big one, like I know like 3 and 4% seems small, but like it's not. When you have a big layoff, it usually means
150.
trouble, especially yearly.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like
So it means that it
we're
means
doing
they've
great.
planned this.
We're doing great, but we're
It
having
means
to
they
cut people and cut people and cut people.
yeah, it means they planned this. It means like once again, investors always look for your numbers to go up. I'm going to try to simplify this. Numbers must go up.
Hmm.
Doesn't matter if you did great before in the year. So if you're making money and you're in the green and you don't think you're going to continue to go up this year in the entertainment industry, you've got to find a way to make that number go up.
Yep.
That's why like places like I don't know if it's the same with BuzzFeed, but like that's why a company could be like racking in revenue and they cut like 30% of the workforce because there they are. They just cut people out and number go up
Yeah.
because they just saved a fuck ton of money.
Yep. Well, they got to pay severance, but after that, no.
Not to small time employees, they don't.
Oh, good point. Good point. Yeah, I just assumed that.
You don't get a severance package.
Mhm. You're hired
I mean,
at
they don't have to
will.
pay. They don't have to pay insurance. They don't have to. Yeah, especially in the entertainment industry, like game development, a lot of those people, especially in bigger cities, sometimes get fucked really bad. They work longer than some of us do, and some of them don't even get insurance.
Yikes.
Especially if they're lower level, they get hired for the passion because they get sold. Like, oh man, that's why I'm glad a lot of that's getting exposed because
They get
yeah, a
taken
lot of those
advantage
big
of.
guys, they just take it. Yeah, they because you can have passion. while also keeping your health.
Yeah. Dream job becomes a nightmare.
Yep.
And then you wake up from it.
That's why I'm glad I didn't get into video games or video game like anything for a job.
Oh man. I can remember when I that was my dream job. I really wanted to do it.
Testers get fucked really bad because a lot of the time they get bugs they have to point out, and some of it just gets overlooked. I've heard some really bad stories about that. Big dogs get severance, only grunts get screwed. So it depends. There's some management that gets uh, severance, but also depends on your tenure. But like, yeah, a lot of entry level people do not get severance.
Yeah. I mean, at least like if it's well, yeah, there's never a good time. I was just thinking like, okay, you get a new job, you're not in it very long, you're not invested. You get let go, it sucks, but it's easier than oh, you've been working this job for like 20
If
years. But
I
you may
recommend
have
watching.
moved, you may have done a bunch of things.
I recommend watching like there's a YouTube video. There's a guy named Matt McMuscles, and he talks about the video game industry. It's called What Happened. Should like there's a playlist he has. Just pick one that you like because there's a bunch of games. There's some games you might even know. Pick one. Talks about the some of those games that go through development hell, movies that go through like hell, stuff like that, and um, it might be interesting if you just listen to a couple of them because there are some that like he talks about the aftermath of of the studio and what happens. But like,
This guy.
yeah, this guy.
Yeah, I've seen these advertised, but I've never watched any of them. I mean, I used to.
They're very good, very good.
Gamma Sutra was a website that had postmortems on games,
Mm-hmm.
but that was those were written articles. Might be something similar, interesting. Yeah, something to listen to while you're painting.
Yeah, you don't have to watch; you can just listen. But
Yeah, went through that.
last line for bonuses all went to management. Oh fuck, man!
Yuck. Sorry. That sucks.
And they wonder why some people go fucking nuts, like absolutely postal.
Yeah. Don't go postal, but yeah, they wonder why. Whew. Okay, well, on that note, so stopkillinggames.com. Not sponsored, but uh, sounds like a worthy effort.
Yep,
At least it's something. It's the beginning of something, maybe.
I would recommend it.
hmm I'd sign it if I was in one of those countries.
But yeah, that's it for me as far as topics go. So.
All right. Well, thankfully, no news in the world of HeroQuest to talk about. I was going to say, if you do want to check out Cristobal at LaGuardia de Marcar, I know people are probably tired of hearing about TseuQuesT. He did a video where he showed the entire TseuQuesT box he has painted. I'm like, dang, this must have taken him ages. 23 days until Gen Con. Well, I was thinking to myself, if I can paint an army of like, I don't know, 80 Warhammer figures in, I don't know, 6 months, I could probably paint a HeroQuest box set if I wanted to. Because I do have more than one. Like, I don't want to touch my vintage one, but uh, now I think Cristobal at LaGuardia de Morcar, he did use some tricks. I think he used some speed paints or some contrast paints or something. But I mean, still, he had to assemble all of those figures and come up with a color scheme, and it's like, wow. So I will see. I thought I had, yeah. I'm just gonna link the video real quick. And it is funny to listen to the dubbed version instead of where he's speaking Spanish because it does not sound like his voice at all. But I'll show a little bit. Just I'm gonna mute it so I don't get audio jungled here. But his voice is amazing. There he is, the man, the myth, the legend. This guy. Joe says maybe I'll try some 40K next year, Star Wars Legion. Well, Joe, the great thing is if you meet up with me and my traveling companion, my good friend, I'm not sure what alias he's using, so I'm not saying his name yet, but he and I are going to have Warhammer armies, like complete armies, like 1,000 point 10th edition armies. So if you want to play with us after the tournament, or before, we'd be happy to play. I actually have a variety of figures. It's just that the only ones that I have as a complete army are orcs, and actually a lot of the orcs are borrowed from my brother-in-law, and it's really sweet because um, my nephew, who's 6 or no 7 now, gosh man, time flies. Yeah, he's 7, so he painted a bunch of orcs, and so I've added those orcs to my army. So I've got some that are like painted by a child to go with my regular ones, but yeah, it's all good. Oh yeah, yeah. I'm definitely bringing my proxy Space Crusade. Yep. But see, I don't know if I'm gonna have room to bring all of those other figures because yeah, I have some Space Marines, I have some Gene Stealers, I have some Necrons, I've got the Gretchen, I've got the Orcs. He's got Dark Angels. So, but at least the Orcs and the Gretchen I'll be bringing. But yeah, here's I'm not gonna show his entire video, but yeah, he does the furniture. I think he did a really good job on these. I'll just kind of skip ahead. So there's some more doors. Ah, yeah, there's the orcs. I've always liked the orcs. Just a big dumb army of guys that just like to fight and steal your stuff.
That's right. They're gonna take everything from you.
Yep. The green tide is coming. Okay, he's still got the fresh paint stuck to his fingers after all this. There's the gargoyle. See, they look so great when they're finished, but I mean, you've got to start out with just endless plastic bags full of nondescript pieces. It's like starting with a 5,000 piece jigsaw puzzle. You got to have that picture in mind of your end goal. So yeah, check out his video. It's good stuff. Does that say Zargon? It does. It says Zargon. How did they get away with that? I guess it's a generic enough name. There's a Zargon in Dungeons and Dragons as well. I did not know there was a Zargon in TseuQuesT. Yeah. Well, there's a lot of anger towards TseuQuesT. We've been over that. There's a lot of people that are upset. But I mean, if you live in Spain, you can just walk into a shop and buy it. It's going to be a lot of work before you can actually put it on the table and play it. I like the fact though that so many of the aspects of it can easily be ported into actual HeroQuest because this started out as a remake of HeroQuest. So he's got Morcar and Zargon. Yeah. Of course, he puts a lot of homebrew on his stuff too. So sometimes I'll see something and I'll be like, "Wait a minute, where did he get that?" And it's like, "Oh, he just printed it or somebody made it for him." Yeah.
Dang, dude.
Yep. But yeah, Zargon is the name of the bad guy in HeroQuest for the modern version, but in back in the day, it was Morcar if you lived in Europe, and it was Zargon if you lived in the U.S. But I mean, people came up with their own like headcanon of like why his name changed, or maybe it was two different characters or something. Yep. All right. Well, that's all I got. That's it.
That's it for today.
Yep. Another rant cast for the books.
In the can.
in the can. Another one for the vaults. RantCast. All right. Well, thanks everybody for joining us. Joe,
Indeed.
Rob, Bohemius, Jacer, Wordicon. Hey, Wordicon's here. Yep. Everybody, Jacer, everybody that stopped by to say hi. Appreciate you.
Yeah, we do. And um, just a final thing here. We will be back Tuesday, right? Next Tuesday?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Yep.
Take care of.
Yeah.
What's that?
I was just gonna say, yeah, I'm not streaming this weekend. I'm not doing HeroQuest fans this weekend.
Oh, why?
But well, I got that funeral to go to, and I got some other
Oh,
stuff.
yeah.
Yeah, so I just figured, it's probably better if I just take it off. Um, Now next weekend, so the 18th and 19th, I should be back. But yeah, as far as next Tuesday goes, I'm ready to do the rants all over again.
All right. Well, have a good night, everybody. Thanks for watching. And we will see you guys next Tuesday. Until then, I'm the TsTrangeBus, also known as Josh. And I was joined by my host here, Kurgan, also known as HeroQuest Fans. You catch him at twitch.tv/HeroQuest Fans.
Yeah.
And yeah, we'll see you guys next week. Have a good night, everybody.
Yep. Take care. Thanks everybody, and we'll get the raid going here in a second.